5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
They've landed. You're in the right place. Online, on the web, and on air. All over the world.
Talk radio.
You hear us, we hear you.
Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the KTPF Community Talk Show, live from Manchester in our back bedroom or back office. That's really getting a little bit sparse, isn't it, Steve?
It is indeed, yeah.
We've got all the posters near enough off the wall and bits and pieces. Just the calendar.
As you can see, Andy,
Chelsea's gone.
Chelsea's gone.
So, and just to verify, Andy says, why does Livestream assume that because we're interested in the paranormal, we all also like horror films? That's me. I look for possible films that are coming up in the near future and just bung it on there for adverts. So otherwise there'd be nothing on there at all. So everything you see on there is all down to me. And unless you see an advert just as you're coming in talking about God knows what, that's not actually related to our subject. Well, guys, we've had a bit of a strange week, haven't we, Steve?
Oh, yes.
I had to fix a door because the cat flap, I had to replace that before we can move, and everything's going online now. So thankfully, we've got a meeting to come up to do the final finishing touches. And hopefully, all going well, we'll have next week's show, which is from the cage. More about that in a bit. And then we'll hopefully be moving then, won't we, Steve?
Yeah, hopefully that after that day we should be going. We are hoping to be going on a Monday.
18th.
And yeah, that's fingers crossed. Either way, we're hoping to go on a Monday, so we've got everything up and running for the following Sunday. Yeah,
if not, we may have to lose a week. It's all down to the powers that be, like BT and stuff like that. So you'll have to bear with us with that. But as I say, being on the internet on my phone, I will let you know on the KTPF Live Facebook group to keep you all posted on what's going on and everything, so that you can be there ready for when we come back. Also, just to let you know, don't lose a week. I try not to lose a week. Also, I just want to remind everyone that there has been some internet problems of late. I don't know whether it's down to the atmospherics. We've had very bad storms in Manchester over the weekend and everything. But then again, I don't know why, but it always rains and does something when it comes to bonfires. I'm sure when they go up, they start sparking something up there. But as I say, if you do have problems with your live stream, or we lose live stream, we will get back to you as soon as possible, okay? Luckily enough, when we record, it carries on recording regardless whether live stream is on or not. So that's not a problem. So we can always get the show onto YouTube. But please bear with us. As I say, live stream has a mind of its own, and so does internet and electricity and God knows what else. So we are on the lap of the gods where that's concerned. And Andy says, don't lose a week. He looks forward to this all weekend. That's nice of him, isn't it?
It is, yes. It is.
So
that's what we like. We like our regulars coming in and seeing us.
Yeah. Even though you are few, the few is the majority to us, because we do like having the live version with everybody coming in and asking questions and stuff like that. And talking of questions, we've got 2 people tonight. The main guest tonight will be Mr. Mark Rosney, and if you've heard our shows before, you would have heard Mark talk about numerous things, and he was somewhere there in the chat room. And then at 9 o'clock, we're going to do a quick phone call to John Blackburn from Mysteria Paranormal, who's going to give us. We're going to give him a call to get the update for next Sunday. Our regulars will know that next Sunday it is the night of the cage. What we're going to be doing, just in case you don't know, the plan is that we will be running the live stream from 4:30. Mark's still there, good. I'll be ringing you in a bit. We're going to be running the show from 4:30 live from the cage, hopefully, and basically the show will start at 8:30 as normal. During the show, apart from our normal chit chats with yourself and paranormal observations and stuff like that, we will be jumping back and forwards throughout the show to John Blackburn live from the cage, and you can then tell him what you want him to do. We're also going to be seeing him doing a live regression, past life regression, which I think Andy 707 is doing, but more about that at 9 o'clock. We're going to find out from John exactly what's going on. But there's going to be quite a few experiments that we will be watching live, and you've got to be there, because what's going to happen is there's going to be somebody else in the live stream back door, as we call it, in the actual studio part of the internet, and he will be seeing your chat room as well, and he will be letting John know if you want him to go to wherever part of the building and stuff like that. So I'm not sure of the logistics of it and how we're going to do it, but I think there's going to be 4 cameras that's going to be portrayed, but we'll find out more from John at about 9 o'clock. So hopefully everything will be fine, but don't forget, you've got to get involved. We want you there to tell him where to go in a polite way. And
it's just unfortunate we won't have any sound on that one.
No, that's the thing. Well, he should have sound. He should be able to talk to people, should be able to talk back to me, so when I interview him, so that's not too bad. No, but
what I mean is we won't have sound when Andy's doing the past life.
Oh, I don't know. It depends whether they'll have a mic there or not. That's the thing. So,
or maybe John can tell us later.
Yeah. So this is it. We'll find out. So it should be a really good night. I don't know what John's going on about Ghost Rider, but he said it's all going to be like Hell in a Cell on WWE.
Is that a prediction there, John?
Talking about John in the chat room, let's just see who's in the chat room this evening. We have Mark Rosney, who will be phoning up any minute now to be here for most of the show. We also have Andy 707. He's probably still at the bingo. And who else do we have? We have Ghost Rider 2873 down there in Norwich. we have quite a few viewers that aren't actually in the chat room at the moment. Can you please come in, because then you can join us and ask questions to our guest. So but hopefully we'll get a few more in. We are recording this, as I said, and it will go live on will go onto YouTube within the next 24 hours. So so that'll be good. Okay. Oh, you're not tonight. So you're at home tonight, are you, Andy? So good, you'll be able to hear everything. Oh, hello, what's this? Banjo Kazooie. Yeah, okay, there's a new one. I don't know who you are, but
welcome.
Unless your name's what's his name? That guy from that big dance band, and I can't think what it's called. That won Britain's Got Talent, was it, or something? Little boy with the fluffy hair, what's his name? I can't think what the group's called now. You know, the dance group. Andy Banjo, is it, or something Banjo? Mm-hmm. I doubt whether he's coming in.
I doubt if it's the same Banjo.
No, me neither.
But welcome anyway.
Yeah. Right. Well, anyway, I'm going to give a call to Mark, because we want him to be with us for most of the show. So, hello, Banjo Kazooie, if that's pronounced right. So, let's see whether we can get Mark on the line and have a chat. Says, do you want to leave a message? No. Don't want to leave a message. We'll have a good connection like we did earlier. Ashley Banjo, that's him. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, fine. Hopefully you can hear him okay in the hub, or rather in the chat room. Yes, that's right. And I'm saying hello from Nome, Alaska. Nome, Alaska. You're in Alaska? Wow. Pleased to meet you. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Mark. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Really fine, thanks. I'm just trying to turn the sound down from the live chat room first.
Yep. Okay.
Right, I'm gone. That seems to have gone. That's good.
That's all right. Don't forget your earphone thing.
I just turned them off.
That's all right then. Right, so we seem to have somebody from Alaska on by the looks of it, Mark.
Alaska.
Oh, that's marvellous, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I'm sure John Savage will be back on soon. He was around on Facebook somewhere. So, Mark, how have you been?
Really fine, thanks. I've been very, very busy.
Right, okay.
I've got 4 books on the go at the minute, trying to write 4 simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
So quite an ordeal, really, but there we go.
Now, just for those who don't know, we've had quite a few different people coming in on the chat room since you last came on. You are the co-author of A Guide to Paranormal Investigation. Have I said that right?
A beginner's guide.
A beginner's guide, was it? Can you hear me, Mark? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now. There was a bit of an echo coming through. It's the first time I've ever tried Skype.
Oh, right.
I've got rid of it now, so I'm really happy now. So hear you very, very clearly.
Right.
Can you hear me?
So you're author of the best-selling book, A Beginner's Guide to Paranormal Investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Yes.
Co-author, though.
Co-author, yes. And obviously, you've been in the paranormal field for quite some years. What was it, 20 years next year, is it? Or was it this year?
No, it's actually 25 years this year. It was 25 years last October.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Party time!
Yeah, we're up to the party.
Well, I did sort of anticipate this year was going to be a big year for me, but it's been very, very quiet, as I say, because I've been concentrating on writing. But yeah, it's my 25th year in the paranormal. It's half my life.
Wow.
Dedicated to uncovering some of the mysteries, but it's been quite a what's the word? A roller coaster, I suppose.
I bet it has. And over the past 25 years, you've obviously seen a lot of changes in the paranormal world.
Oh, an awful lot. I mean, when I first started, it was you just didn't tell people that you were into the paranormal. You know, you basically had to come out the closet and the paranormal closet and just say, eventually people got to find out what I did, and a lot of ridicule at first, and eventually they got used to me getting obsessed by all these weird, wonderful things happening, and then, of course, then shows like Most Haunted come along, and then before you know it, you've
it's exploded.
Yeah, it's absolutely, and it's like really cool to be a paranormal investigator nowadays. So apparently,
I don't know. So, as I say, Most Haunted did do a lot of things for the paranormal world. I think, obviously we had programs like silly things like what was it, that Ghost Watch or something that everyone thought was real. Oh
yeah, the big hoax show with. Trying to remember who was on that now. Michael Parson, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Parson, Sarah Green, was it? And
that's right. Yeah.
And her other half.
And her other half, Mike Smith. But I've only just recently seen that, to be honest with you. And if I remember rightly, I think Craig Charles was the interviewer or something, the on the street man, if you know what I mean. So as I say, it's I'm just checking. They're saying it's frozen for some reason. It does look like it has a bit. Still not moving. Can you hear us, though? This is the main thing. Let's just make sure they can hear us.
Yeah, it was just frozen. It was moving. It was moving a second ago.
You're freezing a bit. All right.
Here we go. We're moving
again. It's obviously something to do with the internet, the atmospherics going around at the moment, I think. There has been a few atmospheric glitches around. Have you noticed that this weekend at all, Mark?
Glitches and stuff.
Yeah, on the internet and things. Even my Skybox, I'll be honest with you, most of the stuff I've recorded on Sky this past week has ended up jumping, on the Sky Plus. So I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know whether it's any relation to the recent solar flares we've had.
Yeah, it could be. You never know. So, but it's if you don't hear us, just shout at us or something on the chat room and let me know, then I'll refresh. That's the main thing. But yeah. Sorry about this, Mark.
That's okay. No problems. No problems at all.
So apart from that, how have things been with you and Michelle? married now since we last spoke on the actual on the show properly.
Well, married bliss, basically. Yeah, we're very, very happy.
That didn't sound too good then, Mark.
You're married now, Mark.
Yeah.
So
yeah, just doing very well to married life as well. It's all very good.
All right, okay, and also Michelle's into her own interest, isn't she? She spoke to us before about vampires and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
well, she's into anything like that. You know, ancient Egyptian stuff, mythology, vampires in particular. Yeah, she's really got a lot of interest in some of the the sides of the paranormal. I don't really concentrate on, but so it's a nice complementary sort of set of interests.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
When's she going to start writing her book?
She started.
Actually.
She has indeed, yeah.
So, right, well, what we're going to do is, Mark, we're going to be contacting John in a bit, and he's going to quickly tell us about what's happening next week. But Steve's got some observations, so you can listen in on these as well and give your opinions. So, over to Steve.
Okay. Hang on.
You can get rid of that now.
That's my phone. I should have to put that on silent. 1 second.
So, that was a good introduction. I don't know. So, but you've got quite a few, haven't you, tonight, Steve?
I've got a few, yes, definitely. I'm just muting my phone here, so I don't make any more noises. And once again, a big thank you to About.com. My whole lots of paranormal stuff on there coming in all the time. So great for them. First one here is a woman believes she was healed by a ghostly apparition known as the White Lady as she visited a church during a family summer holiday.
Okay.
Diane Berthelot, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but there you go, had been unwell for months after having her gallbladder removed and was taking antibiotics for the infection. And when she went into Worsted Village Church in Norfolk to rest and escape the heat, while she sat on a pew close to the front and prayed for full recovery, her husband Peter and son David wandered around the empty church taking photographs. The upcoming thing of this was while she was sitting there with her head bowed, later when they put the photographs up on the big screen for everybody to see at home, they noticed the lady sat behind her. And she felt better when that came up on the on there. She felt a warm and comfortable tingling feeling all over her body.
Okay.
They mentioned this to the vicar when they returned to the church, and he said it's been known what happened there. Here we go. Let me get down this bit. One gentleman decided to stay in the church overnight and said if he saw the White Lady, he was going to give her a kiss. And his friends later found him holding a corner whispering, I've seen her before dying. However, Mrs. Berthelot, now 81 and living in North Walsham, Norfolk, believes her contact with the ghost was a positive one. So there's a lady feeling a lot better thanks to spirit. That's what she's putting it down to.
What do you think to that, Mark?
That's very interesting. Yeah, so she had this sort of feeling of the presence, yeah.
Well, she got like a warm thing. On the story, there was a picture of what looked like a lady sitting behind her. But you got 3 witnesses that says there was no one there.
Right, okay. I can't actually see the picture, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, I haven't got it either.
Okay.
I've only got
just in case you're trying to flash the picture.
But from the picture, from a cynical side, it would have been quite easy to Photoshop it. But the lady obviously believes that this has helped her. Now here's one that I'm sure you'll have a theory on, Mark. Paranormal activity. Woman fall unconscious following exorcism at Landy factory in Karachi. Nearly 25 female workers of Landy garment factory fell unconscious in the aftermath of an exorcism to get rid of evil spirits in the workplace on Monday. The factory seemed to be overtaken by a genie or evil spirit. So many co-workers have experienced mysterious incidents in the past, claimed Fazina Nassim, who arrived with an unconscious colleague in the hospital. By ambulance, a spiritualist was called in this morning by the factory owners to get rid of the suspected jinns. And when he started doing the incantations, the workers started to collapse. There was rumoured to be a gas leak. People are putting that down to the rescue workers spreading rumours, but the doctors say that there is no evidence that what affected the people is gas. You had all of a sudden, you had 25 people just collapse while he was doing his incantations.
Well, I must admit, you're saying it was probably down to the gas, but it's a bit coincidental, isn't it?
Well, the rescue workers, the rumour that was put out was that there was a gas leak, but there was no evidence of it. I tend to put they were very suspicious. That's the wrong word. Superstitious people over there in India, and I would put it down to just people getting overawed by it all.
Yeah, this is it.
What do you reckon?
I must admit, when it comes to the paranormal, people can really be influenced by things, can't they, Mark?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, belief is a huge, big thing. You know, it can make people like the power of suggestion. I mean, for instance, Darren Brown, his whole act revolves around suggestion as well. Now, you tend to find that if people have got a serious belief about something, and you say to them, you know, it's here, it's in a room with you, then they will feel something. You know, they will experience it, even though there's nothing there. Now, there's talking about panics and things. I think it was recent panic in Tokyo a number of years ago, where there was a rumor going around to say that there's this cult going around, which are basically doing gas attacks in the underground in Tokyo.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
and basically these people have been caught and dispensed with years and years and years ago. Yet this rumor surfaced again, and all of a sudden there's about 20, 30 people, all overcome by absolutely nothing there. You know, there was no gas there present or anything. There's no attack, nothing. So just the rumor spread like wildfire through a crowd, and by power of suggestion alone, a number of people overcome.
I don't know. Are you hitting your mic, Mark? Because there seems to be a distortion.
Or blowing on it.
Sorry, is it? You're having difficulty hearing?
No,
you went a bit distorted for a while.
You could be blowing on the mic as you're talking. You're getting
okay. Any better?
Yeah. On that story there, it's a Dr. Simin Jamili. He says she does not believe the workers were possessed, but she puts it down to a hysteric influence might have played out as a ripple effect. And if anyone wants to read the whole story there, that was published in the Express Tribune on October the 29th of this year.
Shabatar says it was sarin that was used. Which event was this in a Tokyo underground?
Yeah, it was sarin gas.
Yes, sarin gas was used. Yes, on the attack.
Which event was this in a Tokyo underground? He says. Which event? I don't know what he means by that.
Well, it was actually in the news of sarin gas attacks on I think it was 3 different underground stations at different times.
Right.
But I don't think any of them were actually sarin gas.
I don't know.
Although there was a lot of kerfuffle about it.
Yeah.
Here's a story of one of the well-known ghost ships, and it's actually my favourite.
Go on.
So I'm going to say it anyway. It's the Flying Dutchman.
All right.
The Flying Dutchman is without doubt the most well-known of all ghost ships. Although much of its story is legend, it's based on fact. A vessel captained by Hendrik van der Decken, who set sail in 1680 from Amsterdam to Batavia, a port in Dutch East India. According to legend, Van der Decken's ship encountered severe storm as it was rounding the Cape of Good Hope. Vanderdecken ignored the dangers of the storm, thought by the crew to be a warning from God, and pressed on. Battered by the tempest, the ship foundered, sending all aboard to their deaths. As punishment, they say Vanderdecken and his ship were doomed to ply the waters near the Cape for eternity. What has perpetuated, why do I always get these things to say, this romantic legend is the fact that several people claim to have actually seen the Flying Dutchman, even in the 20th century. One of the first recorded sightings was by the captain and crew of a British ship in 1835. They recorded they saw the Phantom ship approaching in the shroud of a terrible storm. It came so close that the British crew feared the two ships might collide, but then the ghost ship suddenly vanished. The Dutchman was again seen by two crewmen of HMS Brachanti in 1881. The following day, one of the men fell from the rigging to his death. As recently as March 1939, the ghost ship was seen off the coast of South Africa by dozens of bathers who provided detailed descriptions of the ship, although most had probably never seen a 17th century merchantman. The British South African Annual of 1939 included the story derived from the newspaper reports, which uncanny volition the ship sailed steadily on as the Glencairn beach folks stood about keenly discussing the whys and wherefores of the vessel. Imagine, and the last recorded sighting was 1942 of the Flying Dutchman. I mean, what do you think? What do you think, Mark? Does this spectre actually exist?
What do you think, Mark?
Sorry, I'm having difficulty hearing what Steve's had to say there.
Right.
I pick up every third word or something like that, but talk about the Flying Dutchman sightings, yeah.
Yeah, the last sighting was 1942.
Yeah.
Do you think this spectre actually exists, or is it a case of people actually seeing things?
I'm not too sure about the Flying Dutchman. I can comment on similar things though that people have seen over the years. Not nautical either, but things like phantom aircraft flying over, etc. Mm-hmm. I've got an interesting theory on all of this. I do think that there's probably time anomalies involved here. Where basically something jumps forward or backwards in time, and all of a sudden we see something for a fraction of a second or a few minutes, and then it disappears back into its own time. If that makes any sense.
It does a bit. I mean, so you think that what we're actually seeing is the actual event that happened in the first place, and not a spectre.
Well, I think the way we perceive time is wrong, as in past, present, and future. I think that's backed up with the recent sort of studies in things like quantum mechanics, where it says time doesn't have to flow in any particular direction. And I think what we're actually seeing with the paranormal is the reality of time jumping all over the place. If you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So the ship could exist in its own time. We exist in our own time, but for a short while, our two times collide, and we're able to see each other. If you see what I mean?
Do you want to hang on a minute, Mark?
Yeah, sure.
Because Sue's refreshing, and obviously they can't hear anything you're saying.
That's okay. I was just going to carry on with it anyway.
You're just going to carry on?
Yeah. Oh. It's all right. I've just noticed we're 33 seconds out.
Yeah, we are.
We're quite a bit, actually, so that's why
I
thought I'd refresh.
We were 20 seconds out when we started.
Yeah.
The time anomaly.
Yeah.
And when we did a sound check,
I've gone
only
back
3.
to Firefox, so hopefully it doesn't mess up on me. So I'm just waiting to get back in. Sorry about this, Mark.
That's okay. It's no problem. It's all part of the learning curve.
Yes. I'm just waiting for it to wake up for me so I can get back in. Come on, don't be a pain. Oh, because normally, we get about 3 minutes, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, thingy. So. But I don't know what happens with yours. Your mic keeps stuttering every now and again.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just try and close a window then if I can. Maybe that'll.
Okay.
That's a processing power. Hang on. bear me a second.
That's frozen. Come on. Give me it. Transition.
Okay, how's that now?
Yeah, it seems alright.
Right, that's much better. Yeah.
Just waiting for this to transition so it can get back into it. So it's got to be down to the atmospherics, I think.
Mm-hmm. The gremlins, as I call them.
Yes.
There we go.
Oh, come on.
Something interesting about machines, if you don't, if you don't really trust them working the way they do, they seem to run on faith, and they'll hack in on you.
Yeah.
And I say, first time I ever used Skype, so I'm sort of thinking, is this going to work properly or whatever? So.
I'm just waiting for it to transition. It's not doing it for some reason. Gotcha. We're back. Thank God for that.
Hey, excellent.
Sorry about that. I've gone back to Firefox and I'm hoping that it doesn't mess up. I was on Google before, so fingers crossed. Okay. Right.
So Mark, this thing about time, did you think it's actually a folding time that we're seeing?
Well, I just think that our perception of time is a construct for our brains to make sense of reality around us. But time doesn't necessarily flow in the way that we perceive it, as in we perceive it running from past to present to future. Whereas you look at the rules governing the quantum world, small particles, they don't seem to obey time at all. They can go backwards in time, zip backwards and forwards, etc., as much as they want. And there's no, it's how to put this out. It's no, it's not like me to be lost for words. It seems that the universe can run like that, backwards or forwards, whereas we have this overall perception of there's a past, there's a present, there's a future. And I think that the true nature of time comes out when we witness the paranormal. If that makes any sense.
It's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah. So in other words, we're seeing the true reality of this dimension we call time, with the paranormal. That's something that I'm going to be covering in one of my future books anyway. So.
Okay. Well, more about that in a bit. I've got to ring up John, so I'm just going to find his number that he sent me earlier. Then we can quickly have a word with him about what's happening next week. Just find his number. So bear with us, Mark. 57 8. Right. When did Mark become interested in the paranormal and why? We'll find out more about that in a moment. So we just.
We're still nearly 29 seconds out.
Hello.
Hello. Yes. Yeah.
Right, we've got John Blackburn on the phone, and
evening, John.
Evening, Steve.
Can you hear us all right, John?
I can indeed.
Okay, can everyone hear him okay in the chat room, please? Please answer me, guys.
Yeah, keep in mind they're a bit behind us.
Yeah, they're not that many behind us. 1, 2. Let's see what happens. There weren't that many behind us before.
Yep, we can hear it.
Okie dokie.
Yep,
right. So, John, next week we've got the cage live, yes?
We have indeed, yes.
Right, and we've got everything in line ready for this?
Yeah, it's going to be a good night, actually, because we're kind of starting from 4 till 12 midnight.
Right.
And on the night, we're going to be doing various little experiments and stuff, and one of them, as you know, I think I mentioned this before, that I'm going to have a blindfold or like a hood on my head for like an hour, and this will kind of heighten the senses, really. So hopefully I'll be able to pick up more of what's going on in the cage and be more tuned in. The other thing as well is we've got a little dog that we're going to put in there for like 1 hour. So there's 2 times I'm not going to be on my own. One with the little dog, And obviously, everyone knows that animals are more tuned in, more sensitive to these things.
Yeah.
So that's the reason for that. So we're kind of hoping that the dog goes running out quick and not doesn't sleep on the carpet or something like that.
Right.
And then we also got this one that's a little bit nervous about it, to be honest, because I know the power of the painting and stuff, and is doing a past life regression. Basically, what I'm going to do is the painting's going to be next to me.
Yeah.
And when you stand in front of the painting, I mean, I'm sure, like when you put yourself in that position, which I challenge you to at Drakelow Tunnels, when you stood in front of the painting, you could feel the energy from it.
Yeah.
Did you find that?
Yes.
Yeah. So my idea is sort of putting it right next to me, and then a good friend of mine and also a listener of the KTPF Community Radio Show is Andy Mercer.
Yes.
And Andy Mercer's a past life regressionist as well. So Andy's going to take me into past life regression.
Mm.
Yeah.
And we're going to be able to see this live.
Are we going to be able to hear it?
Yeah, hopefully.
Will we be able to hear it? Will you have a mic attached or something connected to the show?
Yeah, we'll have microphones as well and stuff. What we thought about doing, to be honest with you, which we're going to have a chat to you about it, so I'm not putting on you on the spot.
Yeah.
But we thought, well, maybe from 4 till 12, maybe it's a long time for people to watch, so maybe if we condensed it all.
Yeah.
And then have it on the show.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I think that might be better.
Yeah.
And people are not waiting around and thinking, oh God, I'm just watching something not going on at the moment. But if you condense it into 2 hours or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. I heard you, Steve. So bear with me, John, because they seem to have lost us for some reason.
Okay.
We're having problems with atmospherics here tonight, and I don't know why. But as I say, it's still being recorded, so anything we do lose will be on the actual live, on the what's name page. So it's really weird tonight. I just don't know what's going on. So as I say, we are having problems with atmospherics. Whether that's down to YouTube, live stream, I'm not sure. But we'll see what happens. But as I say, we're going to sort that out during the week, yeah?
Yeah.
And we can get together and work something out and see what we're going to do and how we're going to do it and do a bit of a dummy run, yeah?
Yeah, I think it might create an exciting show, actually, if it's just, rather than me trying to do it like the full 8 hours or whatever it is.
Yeah.
To condense it into 2. Because like Steve said, Steve was saying the same thing, really, to me.
Yeah.
It was Steve's idea, to be honest.
Right.
Because,
Which Steve?
Steve Griffiths, from the
Right, yeah.
Dead. Because he said it'll be, rather than people waiting around for things to happen, it's probably better as a 2-hour show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Andy's got a question
and
there for John.
2 hours of live as well. So what we can do is the past life regression bit. I thought of doing it live at 9 o'clock or something like that.
Andy wants to know, Andy Mercer, your dear friend, wants to know which bit are you nervous about?
To be truthful, Andy, it's got to be the past life regression bit.
Right, okay. So, and how long do you think that will take?
But the past life regression?
Yeah.
I don't know. I suppose it's as long as a piece of string, really, isn't it?
Right, yeah, okay. I'm sure everyone will be wanting to see that bit, though. So, hopefully we can come back to you and do all the experiments and stuff like that during the show and talk to you as well, and what's going on.
Yeah.
So, that would be good.
Yeah.
And just give it a go, basically, like we did when we swapped it before, yeah?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully that'll work.
Andy's
Yeah.
just
said be gentle on you, John.
The Englishman Haunted painting as well.
Sorry, say that again, John.
Oh, with the Englishman Haunted painting, we'll leave it in a room on its own.
Yeah.
And that'll be filmed as well, because it does some strange things when it's on.
Right.
So hopefully that's kind of another experiment as well. So there's a lot going on the night, really. Yeah.
Well, Randy said, don't worry about the PLR, it'll be gentle.
The PLR?
Yeah, the past life regression.
Oh, right, yeah. No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm fine about it, to be honest.
Yeah. You just don't know where it's going to take you. That's what you're a bit nervous about, isn't it?
What it is I think it's because I've been in a position before where I've worked with the painting and stuff.
Yeah.
And I felt the strength of the energy trying to come into my body. I can control that when I'm not in a past life regression state. You know what I mean? But when you're in a past life regression state, then that's different, isn't it?
Right. Okay.
Maybe.
As Andy says, what dark secrets will be revealed?
Indeed.
And it's all for charity, isn't it?
It's all for charity, indeed. And tonight is very, very fitting because obviously it's Remembrance Day.
Yeah.
Next week it's all about BLESMA, which is the British Limbless Ex-Servicemen's Association. They started in the 1930s. No, sorry, it was after the First World War. So it's kind of about 1917, something like that.
Yeah.
And they've been going ever since since the First World War, and they've done some amazing stuff. Steve the Baron Gill, from Channel 4, Big Brother. He said that they did everything for him, really. When he lost his legs in Northern Ireland, he said, he couldn't have coped without them, really.
Yeah.
So they're a charity that are doing good things for our veterans who are coming home from wars, and these guys are helping us to stay safe. So it's a good thing just to donate a little bit to Just Giving, if you will, and that is on my Just Giving page, actually. Yeah, it should be good. So it's just and it's under John Blackburn.
Yeah.
Somewhere I have got the actual link, but it was quite kind of timed that way, really. Like with it being Remembered Sun. This week, and then we could sort of, do it next week. And like I say, guys, it is a really good thing to do. And if you just give anything, it doesn't matter if it's 10p, a pound, whatever, to justgiving.com/John Blackburn 17. That's the link.
So, okay. Well, if you're in the chat room tonight, just put the link on there for us, for everyone. Okay.
Well, indeed, we're just trying to log on before, but for some reason...
Yeah, I think it's the atmospherics, John. We seem to be having a few problems tonight.
Yeah.
So, but we'll get through it, hopefully. And as I say, we are recording, so if anyone does miss anything, they can always catch the replay on this occasion. So, okay, well, hopefully we'll speak to you in the week sometime, and maybe pop over and for a coffee, and we can chat about it.
Yeah, can I ask a very little question? Very quick one.
Go on then.
How did your lone vigil go with it?
It was fine. Did you see the recording back?
To be honest, on my laptop it was a bit dark, actually.
Yes, it was a bit dark, I must admit. On my vigil, I'm sure I heard, because I was calling out for the spirits of Drakelow Tunnel. Nothing much was happening then. And then I thought, well, I'll ask the painting to do something. And I could swore blind that a couple of times it vibrated. But when I asked for it to happen again, nothing happened because I wanted to verify it. And I thought maybe I was imagining things. But apart from that, nothing. I think most of I don't know what it was, but I was calling out quite a bit. And maybe the talking eased myself a bit. I don't know. But when Steve did it, I'm not sure what Steve thought. Did you feel anything different on the painting? Did you hear anything, love?
I thought I saw two red dots in the tunnel, which could have been eyes, could have been anything.
Right.
Well,
two red dots, he said.
But the end of it was
yeah, he thought he saw two red dots in the tunnel, which could have been eyes, but it could have been anything. But unfortunately, he was disrupted at the end because one group came back early and they were being a bit noisy and shining torches.
Right.
So I had to basically ask them to keep it quiet for 5 minutes, but they seemed to come back to the hub and make a bit of a noise like you do when you come back for a break. So it wasn't really their fault, but it's just that they came down to the area and started shining torches where Steve was sitting. So, and it showed on the actual, will you keep it down, please?
Right.
But apart from that, it was fine. Not a problem.
Let me just tell you what happened the other day. I've worked with the Ambush Man over 2 days now, over the weekend.
Yeah.
And this will kind of tie in what you just said.
Yeah.
I think. And one of them is people who were working with the painting on Friday. We saw, it was at a place called the Brown Cow in Clitheroe, which is like a Pendle Hill thing.
Yeah.
And they saw like twinkly lights in front of the painting. They saw red lights in front of the painting.
Right.
And this is in a dark cellar.
Yeah.
One man ran out the cellar very, very quickly because he said to the painting, "Can you do something?" And he said he felt a presence behind him, and then it whispered his name twice.
Mm.
So that was quite freaky. But the other thing as well, why I'm saying this, is the painting shook to questions.
Yeah, yeah.
So it kind of relates to what you were just saying, really.
Yes, definitely. So obviously I did sense something. That makes it even more scarier.
Well, it's kind of, sometimes it does things quite a lot, really. Sometimes it does a lot.
Mm.
Sometimes it does little.
Yeah.
There's always something. There's always subtle things as well.
Uh-huh.
And it's like Sean Robinson, the owner of the painting. He kind of records sessions of 10.
Yeah.
5 times out of 10 he catches something. So it's like a 50%.
Mm. Well, and at the end of the day, I'd like to thank yourself and Ramon and his team for last week. For allowing us to come down and do that, even though it was you that challenged me. Thank you.
Oh, well, I'm going to challenge you again, yeah.
But as I say, what was that again?
I'm going to challenge you again, yeah.
Oh my God. Either way, thank you for the hospitality and everything to Ramon and the team.
And I'd just like to say that you guys are doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And just keep it up.
Yes, I will do. So it's nice to have people's support.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Take care.
Take care. Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that was John Blackburn giving us a heads up of what's happening next week. I don't know if you caught some of that. I tried to put the mic nearer to the phone for you, Mark. I don't know if you heard any of that at all.
Very, very muffled in the background. I was picking up the odd word, so I did get the gist. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, you've probably seen it. There's a painting going around called The Anguished Man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Allegedly, it was painted with the mixture of the blood of the painter, and which hasn't been verified yet. Then he killed himself. And John from Mysteria Paranormal, they've been given the painting on loan to use for their investigations, and they've been doing quite a bit with it, and seems to be increasing the activity wherever they've gone in certain places, and we had to do a sit-in with it down at Draco Tunnels last week, and during my 20 minutes for charity, the painting seemed to vibrate, but I thought I was imagining things, but it done it twice, but when I asked for it to happen again to verify, nothing happened, but he said that's the sort of thing it does. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So they're doing a thing next week called it's The Cage, and he's doing it for Blesma, which is the British Limbless army thing, for people that come back with limbs missing. Yeah, Blesma it's called, and he's doing it all for that, which was part of what our sit-in was for. So and he thanked us there for doing a good job, because he said we should keep it up, what we're doing, the KTPF and everything else. So
that's good, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But as I say, it's nice to have support and everything, so but anyway, back to you, Mark.
I have some questions.
We have some questions for you from the chat room.
Marvelous, yeah.
Okay.
The first one being, what got you interested in the paranormal and why?
Right, well, I've had a sort of like a lifelong interest in the paranormal, but it was basically, I had a UFO sighting in 1978, New Year's Eve 1978, that basically caught my attention. Now, it turned out that it wasn't a UFO, it turned out to be a re-entering Russian booster rocket, but it got me interested into UFOs in particular. And so I spent the next 10 years reading up everything I possibly could find about UFOs, and in that time I got increasingly angry with some of the books that I'd read and some of the articles, because some of the people didn't seem to be asking the right questions, or at least I didn't think they were asking the right questions.
Yeah.
And so then I decided, took the plunge in 1988 to become an active investigator myself, and I took my first case up. And I've never looked back from, since. Now, I joined a group called MARA in 1996, the Merseyside Anomalies Research Association, and they basically got me interested in all aspects of the paranormal, because before that I was just into UFOs in a big way. And it was just from there onwards, that I started to see the amazing connections between all the different phenomena, that we label things like ghosts and poltergeists and UFOs, etc. And there is a common thread throughout the whole lot, and that's fascinated me ever since.
So you've got some more questions there, haven't you, Steve?
Yeah.
They've been numbered.
They have indeed.
Where did you see?
Where do you see ghost hunting going in the next 10 years?
Yeah. Good question.
That's a very good question, isn't it? Well, I know where I'm going in the next 10 years.
Where are you going?
I'm just going to plod along as I always have, researching, active investigation as much as I can, and I'm going to try to ignore the hype that's surrounded the whole thing now. I mean, it's become a bit of a circus in some respects. Some of the investigations, that investigations tend to be more like what I call ghost hunts, as in there's no real work done there. There's nothing. It's basically it's down to experience rather than trying to gather information surrounding the experience. If that makes any sense again. What I'm trying to say is that I think the real research has suffered because of the glamorization of the whole thing, and I think what it's going to need now is for, sadly, a few people that have got into this subject with the wrong attitudes and the wrong viewpoint on the whole thing to shove off and do something else, and then allow us to go back to the real serious work again. It sounds very controversial, maybe, but it's a small minority of people are spoiling the paranormal, I think. So.
Okay, next one, Steve.
Okay, next one. What piece of advice would you give to a beginner apart from read your book?
I just basically say be objective. Don't believe everything you read. Research thoroughly yourself. Don't take anybody's word for anything. Always find your own facts. You find out the truth behind things. And when you go into investigation, go in with an open mind. So not too skeptical, not too fully believing, and just see where the evidence leads you rather than you trying to lead the evidence. I think that's the best advice I can give. And the second piece of advice is don't lose your sense of humour, because you'll need it.
Okay, and number 4 is whose ghost would you most want to talk to?
And why?
Whose ghost?
Yeah, and why?
Conversation with.
Oh, no, that's a very good one. It's a bit like the sitting down for dinner question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd love to have a chat with John Lennon.
Being a Liverpool man.
But as in historical, proper historical figures from the distant past, Alexander the Great would be interesting as well. Yeah. Some of the Egyptian pharaohs as well. It'd be nice to speak to them. Say, where's your secret halls of records? Yeah. I think that's about it, really. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'll probably think of 10 more, when we go off air, but they're the first 3 that hit me so far. So.
Who would you say, Steve? Who would you like to have a conversation with?
There's probably quite a few, but obviously you've got show business stars and all the rest of it, but it's probably a bit controversial, but Adolf Hitler.
Really?
Yeah. Forget all the raving that you hear about Hitler and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
When he started, he was a very intelligent man. Although he was only a decorator, what he was doing was good for his country. It wasn't until he tried to take over the world that things went wrong. So I would like to know what got him there. Why did he push it too far? You know what I mean? Why didn't he just stick with making his own country good instead of trying to attack everybody else?
This is it. Well, Mark, the reason why we've got you on the show is to talk to you about your own paranormal and preternatural experiences. But first of all, can you tell me what preternatural is and the difference between that and paranormal? Right,
well, preternatural is, in essence, it's a different word for paranormal. The reason I chose it was because trying to find an internet domain with the paranormal in, everything's been used, taken up by everybody, so I had to plump for something similar sounding, so preternatural is the next best thing. But the preternatural is slightly different from the paranormal, as in it's all down to the attitude.
Yeah.
And the attitude is that with preternatural is you assume that there's things that we don't know the answer to yet, but eventually we will find a solution for them. And that's my sort of take on the paranormal, as in the things that are only paranormal because we don't know enough about the actual things that occur. We don't know enough about how they occur, why they occur, when they do. And it's when we start putting those pieces together, then we'll get a better picture. And then, in essence, my hope is that aspects of the paranormal will become normal because we'll understand how they work. It's the best example I can give, best analogy I could give would be like rainbows. Now, to ancient man, rainbows are probably a very frightening sight.
Yeah.
In the sky. They might have even sacrificed people, when they see these rainbows in the sky, the portent from the gods, etc. But it's only after years and years of observation that somebody somewhere sort of said, hang on, these only happen when, the sun's shining and the rain's falling. And all of a sudden, from that simple observation, then we get a new science. And that's the way I'm looking at the paranormal, as in we just don't understand the mechanisms behind why ghosts appear, why we hear sounds on recordings that we don't actually hear with our own ears, why we see weird lights in the sky, etc. It's just, it might all be, how do you put it, unexplained phenomena. There's natural phenomena that we just don't understand how it works yet. And when we get a better understanding, then we'll have a better worldview.
Right, okay. And what have you experienced throughout your life? What are the places that you've been to that you could actually say that you've had a good experience at? Well,
undoubtedly, I think that the place that I've had the best experiences, the best experiences I cannot explain, would be Chingle Hall. Now, Chingle Hall is a very, very old place. It's in Goosenar in near Preston.
Yeah.
So it's a village outside of Preston. And now, if I can remember rightly, I think the actual hall was built in 1260 AD, and it was built by a knight coming back from some of the Crusades, and he basically built this thing with a moat around it. So there's a stout little. It's basically like sort of Wath and Daub sort of cottage type thing, but it's fairly large, and it's an amazing place. I mean, it's the only place I can put hand on heart say that there is truly paranormal things really going on there. It is amazing what goes on there. Now, a fellow researcher who's done an awful lot of work about Chingle Hall, he worked out that there's 21 regular apparitions or ghostly effects, paranormal effects, that are experienced by most people that go there. That's 21 different ghosts, hauntings, if you want to call it that. And they are just amazing, really are. I mean, I've had four different sessions in Chingle Hall, and each one, without fail, we were not disappointed. Really strange things went on. But I'd like to tell a little bit about the history of the place before I go into my own experiences, because I think it's absolutely fascinating. Mm-hmm. Now, the one thing that we sort of accept generally in the paranormal, any research will tell you this, is that for a place to be haunted, it's got to have some sort of a dark history to it. Yeah. Sure you agree, yeah? Now this hall doesn't get any darker, I tell you, in history, because the area around Chingle has been ravaged by over 1,000 years of plague, civil war, witch hunts, and religious persecutions. So it's the whole area is steeped in darkness. It really is. So you can imagine that that this hall is a magnet for all sort of manner of paranormal sort of activity. Now, some of the stories surrounding the place, which can be authenticated from back in history, is the hall was basically passed on to a lady called Eleanor de Singleton. Now, she was very young when her parents died, and so she inherited the hall. And so it was her uncles, who were her guardians, who were supposed to be looking after her and the hall until she came to a certain age, to actually to take control of the hall. And unfortunately, the guardians were a bit horrible. They basically tried to make out that Eleanor had gone mad, and so they incarcerated her in the hall for the rest of her life. And so she spent her days basically making lavender bags, etc., sort of like locked in a single room, according to some of the research that some people have done. And they treated her really poorly. Anybody came to visit her, they said, "Oh no, she's mad. She's not of her right mind. You're gonna have to leave her there." And so she spent a miserable existence in Chingle Hall. Now later on, the hall then passed on to a chap called John Wall. Now John Wall was a priest. Now he was basically still practicing Catholic masses during the Reformation, which obviously, if when King Henry VIII basically tried to sack the Catholic Church, and there was a lot of religious persecution going on at the time. There's regular visits by troops trying to find illegal Catholic masses going on, and John Wall used to hold these illegal Catholic masses. Now they actually built a crucifix which they embedded in the wall of one of the rooms in Chingle, which wasn't found until renovations were done in the 1970s. But this was basically, there was like the whole hall was decked out like a church, but it was all, so they could hide things. Like all the vestments could be hidden in certain priest hide holes, and there's other hide holes for the priests to disappear into. But eventually, the forces of the bee caught up with John Wall, and they executed him. And they reckon that legend says that his head is buried on the property somewhere. Now, so that's gruesome enough, and there's been other sort of tales of gruesomeness, horrible stuff happening around the area and the hall in particular. So it has had a massive history of paranormal, massive history of dark things happening there. And so, it's no surprise to anybody that knows about the place that the whole place is heavily haunted, as as my friend Colin Leacock, so I found out.
Can I just ask you a quick question there, Mark?
Yeah, sure.
You said it was built by a knight returning from the Crusades. Was that any connection to the knights, or?
Apparently there is, but it's very tentative. We can't really, when people research it, they can't really get down to the, to the nitty gritty of it. But there are, there's some researchers will tell you that it is Knights Templar, and others will say no, it was just a knight returning home. So I had to set up a home there. Now the actual hall itself is some of the timbers in the hall are built from even older structures. Some of the timbers are actually made from wood from Viking ships. So some of the support beams in the actual hall itself were basically taken off floundered Viking ships and Viking longboats. Now, when you're in the hall itself, you can actually, if you wet your finger and touch one of the beams, you can actually still taste the salt coming out of the woodwork. Wow, from a lifetime out at sea. It's an amazing place. But I'll just go on now about some of the ghosts. I'll just whet your appetite with some of these things and some of the stories surrounding them, and it'll give you an idea of exactly how amazing this place is. Right. Now, the most common apparition seen there is of a monk. Now, there's a place which is known as the chapel, which is where the cross was found embedded into the plasterwork of the hall, and there's also a vestment hide. It's like a massive, big slate slab which you lift up, and you can throw. Things were thrown down there during the raids from the Roundheads or whoever came to police the place. This monk is seen often rising up out of the floor in the chapel area, and then just wanders off. Now this was actually seen by Colin when he did an investigation in the mid-80s, and he was surprised because he's a hard-headed researcher, and he never expected to actually see anything there at all, and he was gobsmacked by him. The second regular apparition is Ellen Lily Singleton. Now, she is sometimes seen, but more often than not, her presence is felt by people who are in the room where she was allegedly incarcerated, and normally her presence is detected by the smell of lavender in the air. And it's a weird sort of thing. I've experienced this myself. been walking down the corridor, and all of a sudden you're hit with this overpowering smell of lavender, and within seconds it disappears completely. It just appears out of nowhere, disappears into nowhere. It is amazing. But there's people who have spent the night in Eleanor's room, and they felt like Eleanor's been playing with her hair, or so like touching people in there, etc. But the weird thing about it is the room feels sad when you go there.
Yeah.
It's a really, really sad sort of presence around there. Now, another apparition that's been seen and also caught on camera, which was a black cat. And again, Colin Veacock was doing an investigation there, and he just took some what called reference pictures around the place. So that the idea of a reference picture is you take a picture of an area, you leave some trigger objects there, and the idea is to check to see whether throughout the course of the night anything's moved. And when he got his reference picture back, because it's back in the days when you had to have things developed, got the reference picture back, the before picture, and there's a black cat sat on a table which was not there when he took the picture. And this black cat has been reported all around the premises. Usually visitors come around, and this black cat rubs the legs, etc. Rubs up and disappears off. And people mention to the guide who looks after the hall, so it's a lovely cat, and he says, there's been no cats around here. The owner doesn't like them.
Yeah.
So
I take it we're talking about a tabby cat and not a big cat.
Yeah, sorry.
We're talking about a tabby cat and not a big cat.
It's a black cat. This. It's a normal domestic cat, not a huge big beast. I mean, I think he would have been very alarmed if he'd seen a panther sat on the table.
Right.
On the picture.
Would it be asked, what's the name of this place you're talking about again? Is it Chingle?
Chingle Hall, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I do have to say before we go any further is that Chingle Hall is now closed to the public. I mean, people used to be able to hire the place out to do investigations, but the owner decided that enough's enough, and he wanted to keep the place to himself. So, as far as I'm aware, that block is still on the place, and nobody can go there anymore to do investigations. It's really sad, because I think this is one of the most important places in Britain, I think, for investigations. Right now, I'll just gloss over some of these, because obviously I could talk for hours about them, but there's a regular apparition of a Roman soldier seen, normally in the grounds itself of the hall. There's an ugly monk seen peering in from the garden windows into the house.
Yeah.
And now here's an amazing one. Now, this is something unbelievable. There was some American visitors came along to see the hall, and now the owner regularly goes off on holiday, so he disappears off all the time, and then the hall's left for somebody else to look after. It's usually you get somebody in basically to just sit in the house sit to make sure nothing goes, nobody comes in and vandalises the place. Anyway, on one occasion when the owner was away, this American couple came along, and they basically knocked on the door, couldn't hear anybody, didn't get any reply from the place, and so they basically wrote a quick letter while they were there and posted it through the letterbox in the door. That's what they said, and as they're looking through the letterbox, they could see a lovely chandelier, lovely marble floor. It looked quite ornate. And anyway, the owner comes back off holiday, and he sees a letter in his hall. Now, the first thing that really perplexed him was that how the hell they got the letter in, because the door is an ancient door. It's been there since the hall was done in 1260, and it hasn't got a letterbox at all. And he couldn't slide anything under the door either. It's a really, really thick, stout door. It's well fitted, well fitted into the thing. So there's no way a letter could have got in. And yet these people put a letter through that door, and described an interior that just has never existed there as far as we're aware.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing.
Andy was just saying it really annoys him when places like this that may offer real evidence of the paranormal, the doors get closed. You know what I mean? So they can't actually get that truth,
Well, I do actually sympathise with the current owner, because he had a bit of a bad deal. I can't go into it too much, but basically somebody badly let him down in the paranormal world, and that basically shut the door to everybody.
There is a lot of that going around, unfortunately. There's been a couple of places that have closed down due to people that have ruined it for others. You know what I mean? You know, and it's not fair. It's but it's the way of the paranormal, isn't it? Really,
it is. It's and that's what I was saying. You know, there's a few bad eggs in the in the world of the paranormal, which are spoiling the whole thing for everybody.
Yeah,
it's such a shame. But it appears now. You know, we were talking about time anomalies before. It appears that time plays a big thing in Chingle. Now, the next one I'm going to talk about is Margaret Howarth. Now, she used to be the owner before the current owner.
Yeah.
She loved the place. She really loved showing the place off to people, and she eventually died in the property. You know, but she thought it was the most magnificent place ever. You know, she used to have all sort of experiences. Now, there was wouldn't surprise you then to find that Margaret Howarth has also been seen in the hall as well. Really? And again, now she died, and the hall remained vacant for a number of years. And during the time when it was vacant, two people came along on spec to see the hall, and they were greeted by somebody that was basically had the description of Margaret Howarth. Margaret showed them around the house, gave them the full tour, and then made them a cup of tea and then sent them on the way again. And it's only when they came back a year later that the current owner has now got it. And when they described to the current owner about the lovely lady that showed them round, he was flabbergasted. He said, that was Margaret. Wow. And she's also been seen from the garden as well, washing dishes, in the kitchen area. And when there's no way she could have been there, she'd been dead a number of years. It's fascinating, really is. Then there's a Casper-like ghost, typical sort of, your cartoons of a ghost has been seen there on a number of occasions. Then we've got the Cavalier, who's been seen actually in the hall itself. Now, there's an amazing story about the Cavalier as well, by another group that went there years ago. And the story goes, and again, I can't vouch for the total veracity of these things, apart from the fact that the people involved seem to be very, very genuine. But there was basically somebody was doing a charity ghost vigil in Chingle Hall, basically a sleepover. Yeah. And these used to happen quite a lot in the hall. But on this one occasion, there's a girl. She basically brought a boyfriend along with her because she needed a lift there. She needed a lift back early in the morning, and her boyfriend was he was the biggest skeptic going. He didn't believe in all this ghost rubbish, as he said, and so he just basically sat in the hall. The girls, went up into the bedrooms and basically slept in there, and so he was just in the great hall, just sat there biding his time. And so he decided about 2 a.m. he was going to get up and make himself a pot noodle. So he went into the kitchen area to go and grab himself a pot noodle, when all of a sudden he was confronted by this very, very solid apparition of a Cavalier, and the Cavalier basically had a sword right up against his throat.
Wow.
Pushed him into the wall, and he just basically tried to push the sword out of the way and ran out the hall, got into the car and drove off and left his girlfriend there. As you do. Yeah, so he was convinced then, he's a convert now, the paranormal really exists for this man.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got. We got the usual sort of things, weird sounds, like you've got a horse, which is heard outside on cobblestones, which the cobblestones are not there anymore. You've got the sounds of a little girl and little boy playing around the hall.
Yeah.
The skull-faced ghost, which is seen usually peering out of the walls itself. Now, here's a very interesting one. It's actually happened to a friend of mine. It's happened on more than one occasion, this as well. Yeah. The stairs and the handrail of the actual the stairwell in the hall that leads to the upper floor. Now, one of my friends, he was doing an investigation there in the late 80s, and he basically they were doing some experiments with so like in low light, and so he didn't want to disturb people's night vision, so he kept all the lights off. So then he decided he needed to go downstairs to the toilet, so he went down the stairwell and he put his hand on the handrail to guide himself down the stairs, got down to the bottom, let go of the handrail, and then he suddenly realised that the handrail should have been on the other side, opposite side of the wall. And so he's feeling around on the wall, on the side he'd actually touched the handrail at first. He couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
And so he reached out with his other hand to the other side. Then he felt the handrail, so it was back where it should have been. But the only way you can explain that sort of happening is, well, when he I jumped a little bit there. He basically mentioned this to the owner when the investigation was over. The owner said, "Oh yeah, the handrail was moved in the 70s from one side to the other." So the only way it makes sense of his experience is if he started off in the 1980s, the top of the stairwell, went down the stairwell in the 1970s, and then when he let go of the rail, and the rail appeared on the right hand side where it should have been in the 1980s, it looked like he's gone back in time to experience that.
Wow.
And he's a very he's a very, very level-headed investigator.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't make anything like that because it's bizarre. It's not cool or spooky. It's just bizarre.
What do you think about these time slips and stuff like that?
Yeah. What do I think about them?
Yeah. What's your opinion?
My opinion is I've actually had one myself, which I won't go into just now. Maybe later if we have time. But I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, if you imagine, like I was saying, we perceive time as going from the past to the present to the future. Now, if that is wrong, and time can just jump around at random, which is how I believe it sort of does work, and our brain just averages out the effects to make it look like there's a past, the present, and the future. Then, when we get these weird sort of like paranormal experiences, which basically jump us out of our perception of time, and we're experiencing time as it really is, I think that makes sense, and it would explain most of the paranormal as well, if we accept that time doesn't flow the way we perceive it. Because as I was saying, well, for instance, I'm coming on to another story in a minute about Chingle, which is the famous Chingle Scream.
Yeah.
Now, which if you I'll basically talk about the Chingle Scream, and then I'll bring it back into the time thing just to illustrate what I think about time.
Okay.
Right. So again, there was another charity sort of like sleepover in Chingle Hall, and there's a group of nurses that were doing this sleepover. Now, absolutely nothing happened to them in the night. It was only in the morning, about 6 a.m, when they decided to pack it up, and go home when it became full light again. That they suddenly experienced the most horrific sort of scream that had just appeared in the middle of, well, coming from the stairwell, but it felt like it was in the middle of the air, and it sounded like it's just an unearthly, blood-curdling scream. Now, luckily, one of the girls had a dictaphone working at the time, and she recorded it. And now it's been analysed by various universities and various. I think the BBC actually analysed it as well, and they came to the conclusion that no single voice could make that. It's a cacophony of. They reckon anything upwards of 100 to about 1,000 different voices making this amazing, horrible scream. And now, one of the things that I like to think of that could have happened is that maybe time could have collided, as in there could be somebody living in 1260 in the hall, or maybe a bit later, 1300s, 1400s, when the horribleness of the hall really took in. And if they were coming down the stairs sort of in the early morning, and they suddenly saw a group of 6 weird people dressed in nurses' outfits, they didn't know what the hell they were, they would scream, we would scream. Time has collided for them, you see. So basically, she's wandered into our time, or we wandered into her time, or into the voices' time, etc. And it doesn't make any sense. It's like times collide, So we all have our own time bubbles, in essence.
We've been asked in the chat room, can we hear the recording anywhere? Do you know?
It is on the web. If you just type in Chingle Scream, you should find it somewhere. I mean, if I can upload it at some stage, or I can pass it on to you, and we could probably get it stuck on your webpage if you wish. Yeah,
we could find that somewhere. That would be good. So what I'm going to do is you're going to quickly tell us about this time thing, and we'll have a quick 2-minute break if that's all right, while we're doing an advert.
Yeah.
Or if that, probably about 49 seconds. And then we'll come back and talk more about your experiences. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
Marvellous.
do you want to do the time bit first, your theory?
Right, well, the theory is quite simple. It's just basically that I don't think the time works in the way that we perceive it. And so I just believe that we have our own time bubbles, which we walk around with. We experience our own time. And usually, they're very, very in sync with the world around us. But occasionally, we can stray upon, like a time anomaly that can make two times cross over.
Yeah.
So, in other words, we're experiencing somebody else's reality and they're experiencing ours. And it doesn't matter how many years divided there is. It's just, that's how I think it works. I could go into more technical details about quantum physics, etc., but I don't want to really go into that. Yeah. But basically, it is supported by some of the ideas I have are supported by the way time runs in the quantum world, in the world of the subatomic particles.
Right. Okay.
And but the only problem is with subatomic particles is that the universe, the way that they work, when you average it out, because the subatomic world is very, very tiny, and when you come to the macro world where we're made of many, many particles, etc., all these weird and wonderful effects should average out, and we get something resembling normality as we understand it. Yeah. But there's effects that happen in the quantum world that they are paranormal, and so the link would be to actually make is to work out why paranormal effects that happen in the quantum world actually start to occur in our macro world. And that's the big thing that we need to work out what's going on.
Right. Okie dokie. Well, we'll have a quick 50-second break, and we'll come back and find out more about your experiences and also about your ideas on technology and stuff. Okay, Mark?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. We'll see you after this.
The Paranormal Intelligence Gathering Services Ghost Store is a one-stop shop for all of your ghost hunting gadgetry needs. Run by ghost hunters for ghost hunters, the shop is filled with all of the latest in investigation equipment, shipped in from all around the world, from high-quality digital dictaphones to EMF pumps, infrared illuminators to laser grid pens, CCTV equipment to data loggers. All of our equipment has already been imported, so you can buy it safe in the knowledge that there will be no hidden costs. And with our postage promise, you'll never pay more than the actual postage price. So visit www.the-pigs.co.uk/ghost store.
Yeah, so if you want all your gadgets, there you are. It's from the Ghost Store down at Pigs in East Sussex. I'm sure Tim will help you out with everything that you need. But we're here with Mark Rosney on Skype with us, all the way from Houghton, isn't it? Or is it Liverpool? No, it's Liverpool, isn't it?
Liverpool, yeah.
Yes, in Liverpool. And he's talking to us about his experiences, what with Chingle Hall and stuff like that. And being the co-author of A Beginner's Guide to Paranormal Investigating or Investigations, he's covered quite a lot of genre, and over the 25 years he's been in this subject, not just with ghost hunting, but also with UFOs, cryptozoology, big cats and stuff like that, which you can find on his website, which is called Planet Preternatural. And we're going to talk more to Mark. I'll get it right in a minute. Don't ask me. I don't know why I keep calling you Mike. There's something wrong. Probably because I've got it.
I like Mike better, actually. Yeah.
Probably because it's stuck right in front of me that I'm saying Mike. We're going to talk more to Mark, who's been, as I say, in the know for 25 years, running his own groups in the past, and also he was on a program you may remember called Spook School back in the day, which wasn't not so long ago, was it, Mark?
2008, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was good, wasn't it? But what was the premise of your show then, Mark?
The premise of the show was we used to run courses, beginners courses in paranormal, to basically give people a good grounding in sensible information about the paranormal and basics, ideas of how to run visuals, how to use equipment properly, etc.
Right.
And we wrapped it all together as a 5-week course, and Antics TV, they got very interested in it, so they came along to film us, and that was the premise of the first series, at least. And then the second series, they followed us around doing our investigations, and that was quite fun too. But that's basically what it was all about, yeah.
Right. Okay. And obviously, people, it was really good, and people learned from it, because that's what we need to do with the paranormal. We need to learn from it and use the technology that's within our grasp. But what would you say was the best way to approach a paranormal investigation, Mark?
Well, again, the advice I gave earlier, they said, what do you tell a beginner? And I think the thing is, keep an open mind. I think that's the main thing. It's the most important piece of kit that you can take on an investigation with you is an open mind. And don't reach for the paranormal. If you experience anything, don't reach for the paranormal straight away. Look at all the alternatives around. Think about the whole situation. Because 9 times out of 10, people have strange experiences, but they turn out not to be paranormal. The paranormal is quite rare. Right. So just basically keep an open mind. Keep a sense of humour, which is also very, very important, because as I'm sure our listeners and yourselves will be very aware of, is that the paranormal does play tricks on people as well.
Yeah, I must admit it does, doesn't it?
The amount of times that I've set up equipment, nothing's happened. The minute we're stripping the equipment down, all hell breaks loose when you've got nothing to record it with. It's just unbelievable. And it does seem to be like some sort of cosmic joker there playing with us.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you are interested also in the ufology side.
Yes, I actually cut my teeth with ufology. Yes.
Yeah. There's something that I'd like to ask you about, to get your opinion on, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me while I read it. There's a post that Steve put on the KTPF. Are strange sounds in the sky over Blackburn in England caused by UFOs? It's posted on November the 5th. Apparently, last month on October the 25th, strange sounds were recorded over Blackburn, UK. Given it is not a new phenomena and has been observed in previous years. In 2009, as you probably remember, Nibiru NL did a research on this phenomena and concluded that it may be an object of enormous proportions. Have you heard about these recent noises? They're saying if it's possible that giant cloaked UFOs are responsible for these strange sounds, and they utilise energies. Are they utilising energies from Earth's energy line? What do you think?
Right. Well, we have some local regular sort of weird things. So the Egbert hum is one thing which has been reported very recently where I live, and several weeks later, it was several days later, I should say, we had a major collapse in a disused tunnel close to where we were, and sometimes these sounds can be more earth related, as in tectonic strain, or there's pressure on rock, etc. And sometimes they do herald things like tunnel collapses, etc. It might sound bizarre, but when rock is under strain, it can create all sort of amazing sort of noises. And sometimes the noises aren't heard locally. They're basically because the waves, because they're very, very low frequency sounds, the waves can be felt miles away. It basically translates through the rock, and then all of a sudden it comes up in the middle of nowhere, and you suddenly got a weird bass booming sound, etc.
Yeah, what they're theorising is it's displacement as these ships are moving so fast.
Yeah, it could be. It could really be. I'm just going on the things that I know and things I've personally investigated.
Yeah.
Now, there's another weird hum in the Runcorn area, which a noise abatement guy, he actually solved. But we were involved in it for a number of nights because it was bugging the house of everybody around the whole area. In fact, it was the noise, it was like a hum, a weird sort of hum, which you couldn't really work out what direction it's coming from. It seemed to be everywhere. And eventually, well, to cut a long story short, there was they were even trying to record songs of praise in one of the local churches. The film crew came over and they couldn't record it because this hum was prevalent in all the recordings. They were really, really perplexed by it. And eventually, this noise abatement guy, from the some sort of government department, came down with sophisticated meters, etc., and he worked out it was actually it was an extractor fan on one of the local supermarkets which is creating this noise, and it was actually affecting the whole area, for radius about 12 miles. Yeah, but it was such a booming big noise, you couldn't avoid it, you couldn't sleep with it. And as I say, wrecked recordings that were done at the time as well by the BBC. So you imagine that's just one fan, I think it was a 6 foot wide fan that created all this noise. So, and again, that emphasises, some of the things just talking about, with the paranormal, as in you don't reach for the paranormal straight away, you do thorough investigation. Yeah. A 6 foot fan can make that sort of noise and cannot be detected easily. If somebody hadn't really gone to all that trouble, then we would have still had a paranormal case in our hands.
Yes.
But as it turned out, it definitely was the fan, because when they oiled the bearings, etc., the sound disappeared completely.
Now, you say you started off as a ufologist, really.
I did.
Many people that we've actually interviewed, Ben Hansen from Paranormal Fact and Fate, amongst others, they've always said that as a child they were so into Star Trek and stuff like that, which got them into the ufology side and the paranormal itself, X-Files and stuff like that. So what was it that started you off?
Well, when I look back, I always said to myself, I hadn't really had much of an interest until I had that sighting myself. But then, looking back now, my father had books and books and books about, mysteries. I mean, one of his favourite mysteries was the Nova Scotia mystery, the secret, the money pit, the treasure pit. Yeah. I can't remember the name of the thing, but that was a mystery that fascinated him. This strange pit that used to fill in at the tides, etc. And it was like booby trapped, and it's supposed to be a pirate's treasure down there. And people spent 6 fortunes trying to dig the thing out, and they could never get to it. There was that sort of mystery. There's all sorts of mysteries that my dad was fascinated with. My dad went to visit the pyramids during the war, and he managed to get into the Great Pyramid, and he looked at that and sort of said, it's amazing, the precision of this place, how the hell did they build it, with the rudimentary equipment they had in those days. And that sort of thing used to fascinate me. I think it probably rubbed off on me in some sort of respect, too, maybe on a subconscious level. But what really sparked it was that sighting I had. It was so spectacular. It really was. And I became totally obsessed with UFOs for the 10 years until I got to the point where I thought, the people are jumping to conclusions here. They're not asking sensible questions. I've got to do this myself. My first ever case was a complete disaster, though. I have to tell you this. Again, it was in 1988. Actually, there was a local investigator to me where I was living at the time in Runcorn, who he needed a bit of help, and he wasn't really into astronomy, and I was into astronomy. And so I said to him, well, I'll do some astronomical checking on this sighting that's been reported. Now, basically going back to 1988, I think the X-Files was around then, or just starting.
Yeah.
Is that right? And
to be honest,
the story goes, basically, that there was a chap who was living on an allotment. He was working late one night. In actual fact, he was guarding his prize, his prize marrows or whatever he was growing.
Yeah. Because
he feared that, somebody's going to come along and wreck them, because, that's what sort of happens in the horticultural world. The prize of £100, for the best vegetables, and your rivals come out and slash all your flowers and things and everything else. So he was guarding his allotment late one night, and he saw this light descend into the field close to where he was, and then he went out. When he felt a bit brave, a few minutes later, he went out with the torch and actually found what he thought was an alien artifact. And so he took it back to the allotment, and he was paranoid about, government agents and things, coming, men in black visiting me, etc. So he actually buried this thing, and the way he buried it was unbelievable. He buried it in a trunk, in an old trunk, in about, I think it was about 8 foot deep, under his manure heap. And so it was well hidden. And as the rumour mill went around, this investigator got to hear about the sighting that this guy had, but he didn't know who it was. So he meticulously went around and tried to find out who it was that had the sighting. And eventually he pinned this guy down and said, it was you, wasn't it? He said, yeah. And so then this investigator convinced him that he wasn't from the government, and he was totally bona fide investigator, etc. And so then they spent a whole afternoon digging this damn thing up and opening up the chests and everything else. And he said it got to the point where he opened up the last box where this thing was in, and this chap pulled out, this witness pulled out the head of a spoon, right, and passed it to him and said, there we go, that's an alien artifact. I saw the ship land, and that's it. And so the poor investigator, I can just imagine him standing there just blinking, so like incredulous, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
But basically what had happened was that I proved this, that there'd been a fairly bright fireball meteor seen at the time that the guy was looking out over the field. It disappeared over the horizon, but because it was pitch black and because he'd been dazzled by this light, he perceived it being much closer. He thought it landed in the middle of the field. And so the first object he found when he went out to the middle of the field was this head of a spoon. So therefore, in his mind, it had to be paranormal. It had to be a piece of an alien ship or something or other.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, the story doesn't end there. So as far as I was concerned, it was case closed, and according to the investigators, it was case closed as well. Until the investigator and I went to a conference a couple of months later. It was the first conference I'd ever been to. And so we're chatting away to another investigator at the time, who I'm not going to mention because I don't like to slur people out and having a chance to recoup back. But basically, we recounted the story to him, thinking he was going to have a big of a belly laugh. And this guy turns around quite pointedly and says, "How do you know it wasn't an alien spoon?" Well, okay.
Wow.
You knew it wasn't an alien spoon. It had Sheffield printed on the back of it, but there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think about some of these? I'm going to put you on the spot a bit, but when it comes to these people that come forward and talk about some of these weird and wacky stories, that's what they sound to us. You know what I mean? We've got to respect what they believe in, really, haven't we? We've got to take it, haven't we? Yeah. Like you say, we have to be tactful with them, and
it's not just tact as well. I mean, absolutely, we need to be absolutely sincere with them as well.
Yeah, because they believe this stuff. You know what I mean? Yourself, we've had it on the show. You've had it when you used to do City Talk with Roy Basnett. I even remember a time when we had somebody on the show talking about something to do with the Egyptian pyramids or something or other, and it did sound a bit far out, but you've got to basically listen to what they say, respect what they say, because they do believe it, don't they? And you can't really, as much as you might think to yourself, there's something wrong here, you have to really respect their beliefs, don't you?
Well, absolutely. Now, I was a member of a group called MARA, Bears Head Anomalies Research Association, and we used to have a motto that went with the figurehead of our group, and that was, it was interpretation is free, experience is sacred. Now, there are very, very important things which have carried through to my own investigations, because, how do you put it? People have really bizarre sounding experiences, and now, as an investigator, personally, that doesn't matter to me. Whether I think personally that the experience happened in their head or whether it was physically real. But the experience is certainly real to the person who's had the experience. So my job as an investigator is to see if there is any reality in the thing, as in any physical reality. But the mental side of it is just as fascinating, because who's to say what would happen if we were confronted with something that's totally out of our worldview, out of our own experiences? What would that do to us? If I saw a spaceman, and I could clearly say it was a spaceman coming, jumps out of a flying saucer at me, I don't know how the hell I'd react. I certainly don't know how I would take that mentally either.
No.
And that's the thing we've got to have in mind when we're listening to these fantastic stories that are told to us. That sometimes you can tell that this experience is in somebody's mind because they're, once for a better word, they've ended up in an altered state of consciousness for whatever reason. They could have, could have been a drug user, or or might be on prescription medication and the situation's been wrong for them, etc. And they end up having, an experience which, it doesn't actually happen in reality. It happens inside their mind. But the thing is that I think it doesn't invalidate the paranormal side of it, because who's to say that it does, altered state of perception doesn't open doors to the paranormal even.
No, this is it.
Yeah, I mean, how come you've got some people that claim they're sensitive and they can walk around the haunted houses and they feel things. Other people like myself, we don't feel anything at all.
No.
So some people might be more sensitive to paranormal experiences. So I take everything very, very seriously.
Yeah.
But I do try to use science to in a way to like to sort out the the physical manifestations to what I could be mental manifestations, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Now there's some people have really bad sort of like bad attitude towards science. Now science is not the baddie in this.
No.
But the baddie is when people use science incorrectly.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about people, basically say, I'm a skeptic, therefore, I'm not going to believe you at all. And this piece of science suggests that you're mad, and therefore that's it. They're not open to anything else. That's bad. I mean, science in itself is it's an amazing tool. I mean, it's an amazing tool that allowed us the technology we have to speak to each other now. It's like it's quite amazing, and that's only because we get to the truth of the matter. What actually goes on. Well, for instance, now with the world, with the technology around us, we need to work out what exactly happens to electricity when it travels through certain medium, certain material, etc. And that gives us the transistor, gives us all sorts of wonderful electrical components, which assembled correctly together produce amazing gadgets which can do amazing things.
Yeah.
But we certainly wouldn't have got that if people haven't really investigated thoroughly, the mechanics and the effects of electricity and electrons and particles and molecules, etc. It's how do you put this? It's basically coming to the reality, the truth of how things work.
Yeah.
That makes science work. But science can be abused, and that's the people that abuse the science that I think they've given it a bad name.
As Andy's just quoted Mr. O'Keefe or Dr. O'Keefe the other week, difference between skeptic and cynic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm going to do is, Mark, I'm going to do the paranormal events quickly. There's not many of them. Then we'll come back and talk to you even more, okay? Because there's a connection with you with one of the events that we're going to mention. And hopefully we can carry on the technical side of it with you, okay?
Right, yeah, absolutely.
So I'll speak to you in a moment.
We've got all the news right here. Don't go away.
Fed up of wading through the activities and events that other advertisers include? Find just what you're looking for at paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory.
Yes, and what we got this week for you is what's coming up in over the next few months, right up until Christmas. You've got the all-new Bluebell Hill Ghost Walks, which started up recently by Neil Arnold, and he's been doing them there in the Bluebell Hill area. And if you want to take part in these, you can call him on 0785 160 2853 or email neil.arnold@live.com. And from somebody who comes from that neck of the woods, the stories that I remember as a child, it's always been a fascination for me. It's a pity I'm in Manchester now. If you're into Tony Stockwell, he's still doing his tour, and you can contact him or check out his website, which is let me just double check, tonystockwell.com, and you can find it on /UK tour dates. So they're there for you in the events section, and he's still doing his psychic medium demonstrations around the country. Okay, and also on the 29th of November, we have a ghost hunt at Sinai House, which is in the Burton-on-Trent area. This event is working with their psychics, contacting the dead, they say, via psychic walk seances and other psychic inventions. And you can find out about their low prices by calling 0793 640 2865. I'm not sure who that's with because it hasn't said. It could be to do with the Burton Ghost Walks on that one. 30th of November, Morecambe Winter Gardens, which is a favourite up north, reputed to be one of the most haunted buildings in the Lancashire area. We are pleased to return to the Winter Gardens. That's we, as in UK Shadow Seekers, and few bits I've got to change there, but we'll be looking into that. The last remaining Victorian theatre that's there, that's they're hoping to bring back to life. And on the 7th of December, we're back at Sinai House, not us personally, but you can go there with Spirit Watch Paranormal. If you check them out on spiritwatchparanormal.co.uk to find out the prices. And as I say, Sinai House goes back to the Roman times and maybe even earlier. The Saxons also used the location as a stronghold, and Sinai House is truly amazing and very active building. And on the 14th of December, UK Shadow Seekers are doing their first ever event at Sheffield Town Hall in South Yorkshire. It was opened in 1897, and apparently it's been built on the site of an old cemetery. And there's rumours that in the basement, don't ask, but green ooze comes out the walls. I don't know how serious that is, but an electrician who was asked to check on the electrics had left very unnerved and vowed not to return. There's been many strange experiences there, with staff members and other visitors to the town reporting all manner of ghostly activity. And I just want to drop back to the 16th of November. If you're in the area for St Helens, that's up in the Lancashire area, at Mill Street Barracks, there's a fundraising night of paranormal exploration. You've got the guys there, Jamie from Ghost Quest Liverpool. You can contact him at ghostquest01@gmail.com or 0701 007 6553 for ticket information. Excuse me. Apparently there's a ghost hunt with Ghost Quest, and it's all to raise funds for the building because like us, we try and help buildings that are in need of the money more than anything else, and that's what they're doing with with Mill Street Barracks. It's a place for young cadets, so all the money goes to help them. They've got a special guest, psychic medium and psychic artist Yvonne Porter is going there, and there's also a ghost hunt, as I said, going on, and there's also a talk by Mark Rosney on phantom photographs, a brief history of capturing spirits on camera, plus the Ask the Panel, put your questions to the panel of guests, and me and Steve have been invited to that, so maybe we'll see you there. And that's it for the events for this week. So just finish this off, and then we'll find out more from Mark about his phantom photographs.
So check out the one-stop paranormal directory for more investigations and events, available now. ParanormalEventsForYou.com also offers banner advertising for only £10 per year. See our website for more details. ParanormalEventsForYou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory.
And if you haven't heard of ParanormalEventsForYou.com before, it's a free website for you to advertise your events. All we ask is that you don't put your prices, just put your website details on, and you must have a valid website. If you decide to have a banner, that will go on the front page, and basically what will happen then is all the money that is raised from the site, it goes to help keep things like the KTPF going and Paranormal Events and Trifle Media. It's just for our server, nothing else, and that's what it goes towards. So why not prices? Because we always say, remember, collaboration, not competition. If people want to find out how much you actually are, then they can go straight to your website. That's the way we look at it. So it's all part of the KTPF. There's no competition that way, and people can find out for themselves. That's why we say no prices. Whether it should change or not, I don't know, but that's the way we look at it the moment. It's all part of keeping it friendly. So we don't want any competition in this sort of thing. That's what it's all about. You just wondered. Okay, Andy. And yes, I probably do look tired, Doc. I do feel tired, I must admit. But we've got Mark Rosney on the Skype, and I'm going to go back to what we was mentioning back in the events for next Saturday. Great charity, I would say, Mark. What would you think?
Oh, it's marvellous, yes.
Yes, Mill Street Barracks. Can you tell us a bit about Mill Street Barracks?
Well, you caught me on the hop there. I don't really know an awful lot about the haunting history of the place, but I do believe it's incredibly active.
Right, okay. And what is it used for at the moment? It's for the Sea Cadets, isn't it?
I believe so, yeah. I think it's certainly be used by Sea Cadets or other children's groups, I think, or youth groups or whatever.
Yeah.
But I know that they've got problems with the roof, and that's one of the things that needs to be sorted out with it. And but they do an awful lot for the community, and that's good enough for me. I think it's very, very worthwhile.
Well, this is it. Yeah, there needs to be more done for community things, I think. But as I say, you're doing a talk on phantom photographs. Now, I wanted to discuss things like orbs with you, and the technical side of the orbs and stuff. We get a lot of people, they say, oh, look what I caught and what have you. But there is, what is the theory? What is the great orb debate and phantom photographs? You see them all the time. Most of them are photoshopped and stuff like that. I don't even know how to use that, to be honest with you. I can't get my head around that one, even just for doing posters. But, I'd rather use Publisher. But, what do you think about these photographs that are coming up and these orb things?
Right, well, don't get me started on orbs, because I lose a lot of friends every time I talk about orbs.
I must admit, it is a topic, isn't it, that it's a bit like Marmite, isn't it? You either love it or hate it. It
divides opinion quite dramatically. Well, I sort of took a weird slant at orbs when they first started becoming very, very prevalent. I think it was about 1997 onwards that there was an explosion of these weird things appearing on photographs.
Yeah.
And so I decided to look into it a bit further, because basically my understanding of the paranormal and many other investigators' understanding of paranormal is that these events are rare. If they weren't rare, then we'd probably solve the issues and work out what exactly is going on and make the paranormal. But in this instance, there was just millions upon millions of these pictures just coming out of nowhere. All of a sudden, people started producing them, and they appeared, people taking pictures of things like weddings, funerals, obviously, children's outings, trips down to the park, you name it, they started appearing everywhere. And that, to me, I started thinking, what the hell's going on here? So I did a bit of research. And there were two opinions. The first opinion was that it's got to be something to do with the technology, because we were starting to move from analog cameras to digital. That was the first thing that somebody said. And then there was the counter argument, where other more spiritually minded people said that, well, what's happening is that the barriers between our world and the next are breaking down, and that's why we're seeing more of these things. So I thought, okay, let's put this to the test.
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking into. I first looked at the technology angle, and so technology angle was going on. I looked at the digital cameras themselves, and I started noticing that the number of all pictures appearing was increasing year by year. I thought, oh, that's interesting. So why, from the introduction of digital cameras, of suddenly all these orbs sort of pictures started to increase. So then I was looking for different examples, from different cameras to see whether there's a certain make or a model that was causing these, and I could find no real correlation between the various makes and models of the cameras. And then looking at some analog pictures, from the old film cameras, I actually started seeing some orbs on those as well. I thought, but they were rarer on the other cameras, on the old analog cameras. I thought, right, what's causing this? And then it suddenly struck me one afternoon that that the actual size of the camera made a difference between capturing orbs and not capturing orbs. So basically, the smaller the camera was, the more chance of it capturing orbs was, in the pictures. And I suddenly worked out what I thought was going on, and that was that that the smaller the camera gets, the closer the lens and the built-in flash unit gets to each other. And the closer they get to each other means that there's more chance of light straying into the path of the camera, illuminating the space right in front of the lens where things are out of focus. Because with the first 4 inches in front of a lens is the zone where everything's totally out of focus. Anything caught in that area by the lens and is illuminated becomes magnified and becomes like 10 times its normal size, or more so actually with dust. It could be 40-50 times its normal size, and by virtue of it being out of focus, it also becomes translucent as well.
Yeah.
So to me, that was case closed. So I looked at the other side, the spiritual side, and there's arguments raging over, the barriers to, the hereafter and our world, our physical world, were breaking down. Then there was counter arguments saying that, telephone, mobile phone masts, mobile phones are killing ghosts because ghosts are disappearing. And looking at the averages for the years, it seemed that apparition sightings and things were down, orbs were on the increase. So I thought, well, if things were going to come through, I thought, well, would it not be physical manifestations, things that people can see with their own eyes, rather than these weird blobs in front of cameras that are not seen at the time the picture was taken? Anyway, so I did some experiments, and I basically worked out that 99.9% of the things that appear as orbs on cameras are explainable as dust, pollen, insects, or very, very fine water particles in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And they all occur in this zone right in front of the camera, the out of focus zone, as I call it. And as I say, then the magnified become rounded because of the way lens effects work and things, and translucent, so you can actually see through them. And you can't see them at the time because they're tiny particles.
Right.
But they're either illuminated by the flash or by light directly in front of the camera, shining close to the lens and illuminating these tiny particles you normally wouldn't see. So now I've put out a challenge, because there's still people out there that will not accept this, even though it's demonstratable. I put out a challenge to people saying that, okay, well, for me to say there is really something into this, you've got to, these things have got to occur at a distance to the camera, at a physical distance, not just 4 inches away. These things, I need somebody to provide me with a picture that can prove categorically that these orbs are actually miles away from the camera, e.g., half an orb is being obscured by something in the room, for instance, like a pillar or a chair or whatever else. And I've never found an example of that yet, even though there are some there are some examples on the web that basically say, you know, this is diving behind a pillar. It's not. If you basically change enhance the colours, or you change the contrast, then you find that the rest of the orb is there. It's just that the actual wall or the pillar or wherever it's disappearing behind is very light colour and background, so therefore the rest of the orb's obscured. But it's still there, you know, it's all still there, and it's all still within the critical distance, you know, the out of focus zone of the camera. So, I demonstrate this, you know, to people time and time again. I did a massive demonstration in 2004 at one of our paranormal weeks, where I asked the question, you know, who thinks that orbs are paranormal in nature? Practically everybody's hands goes up.
Yeah.
Shortly before when I was walking into the hall, people are trying to thrust these orb pictures onto me as well, saying, you know, have a look at these, and I said, no, keep hold of them. I'll have a look at them afterwards. And so then I did the demonstration, did a live demonstration for people, so there's no way I could have faked anything or, or pre-arranged the photographs in the camera. You know, this all happened live. I had volunteers there doing this with me. And then we showed the results, and then I said, right, okay, what do you think about this? These are the things that people claim are paranormal in origin. These are the ones we've just created now. Have a look at them. What do you think? And everybody sort of said, yeah, they're all the same, you know, case closed. And so then I asked the question again, who now thinks that these are paranormal in origin? And everybody put the hand back down, and all the people with the pictures would basically slide them into the pockets and trying to get away before I get to see them again. So, you know, it's a powerful demonstration. You have to see it actually working, you know, to appreciate it. But there are still some things out there that can't be recreated to order, because you know, there's things called an annular orb, and that's basically, it's like a very, very dark circle with a very, very bright ring around the thing. Yeah. Now we can't recreate those to order, so therefore, you know, jury's still out on them. They're still anomalous. So not everything, you know, orbs is not dead yet, as it were, but.
But on the subject of photographs, now we get a lot of photographs that come in about weird things that are on them and stuff like that. Now there's a what's this about the there's a data, isn't there, on the photograph that you can actually check? Yeah. Can you tell us a bit more about this?
Yeah, it's well, basically the cameras, as they get more sophisticated now, you don't just take a picture, you basically record the data. You know, all the camera settings at the time the picture was taken, and that's stored on a file which is embedded in the photograph itself, called the EXIF file. And by using specialized software, or I think Windows does it now, you know, when you have a directory full of photographs, digital photographs, on your computer, if you basically hover the mouse over it, now you get to see some information like when the picture was taken. You know, the date and time. There'll be a few other bits and bobs now. And as cameras get more sophisticated, they're even telling you things now that, you know, the location the picture was taken in, you know, as in, you know, the global coordinates. You know, what the settings were on the camera, e.g., was the flash fired, what was the aperture setting, what's the exposure time, etc. And it's all very, very useful information which is stored with the pictures. And so investigators like me can use that to you know, sometimes to corroborate information that people are telling me, you know, witnesses and things. Now, for instance, there was somebody trying to fake UFO pictures a number of years ago. They passed the pictures to me, and they said, you know, they were telling me that their witness testimony was saying it was taken at such a time in the afternoon, and you know, was facing northwest, and by the sun angle and the time recorded on the picture, it was categorically say you know, they were lying. It was something else, a different time, different direction. So I was able to sort of say, hang on, you're a bit wrong in these. Something's wrong here. One of these details is wrong, and eventually they came clean. So, but there's other things you can do with EXIF information as well. There's the stuff that I don't really want to reveal, because these are things in my armory which I can use to detect fakes easily. But there's information embedded in the pictures along with the EXIF information that can tell me if there's been large changes made with Photoshop or some other sort of like photo manipulation software. So I can actually dig into the data inside the actual picture itself. And if anybody tries to tamper with them, they leave huge big footprints, which I can detect easily.
Oh, that's good then.
And
like its own carbon footprint sort of thing.
Yeah, they leave basically it's you know, if they tamper with it, then they change the data, and there's certain markers inside the information that makes up the picture that says that this data has been changed.
Right. Okay.
So I can, you know, I can actually work out whether something's been manipulated or not, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Andy707 says, are you talking about layering in Photoshop?
That's one thing is layering, yes, but there's other artifacts inside there as well that
Right, okay.
yeah, it's basically well, I might as well tell you some of the detail behind it. But when basically when you take a picture, all the information goes through the lens onto the chip inside the camera called the CCD, the coupled charge device. Now, then that data is then transferred from the charge coupled device to your memory stick or your memory card or whatever.
Yeah.
As it's being transferred, then there needs to be markers in there to detect whether there's any of the data missing when the information is being transferred. So it's like basically somebody, you know, you take a bus somewhere, you've got a group of kids, and you count them all going off and you count them all going back on again to make sure that they've all got off and they've all got back onto the bus. Mm-hmm. It's a bit like that, but in digital terms. And so these markers are set in stone and they can't be altered by any process. So if anybody manipulates the picture, then those markers have changed.
Yeah.
You know, they're basically, they'll tell you there's a certain amount of information in there, whereas the information will have changed, and so therefore comparing the two tells you that the picture has been altered in some way, shape or form.
There's so many pictures going around that have been going around for years. You've got the group of girls where there's a child looking, you know, and the young girl's crying and she can see the face on the legs or something. But I remember that's been sent to us about 5 times, and every time I've had a different story with it. This was taken before we went out on a mobile phone. This was what my friend took. Or my dad took, you know, of my friends before they went away or whatever, before they went out, or do you know what this is? It was taken by my auntie, you know, and it's just stupid, you know what I mean? When it circulates and circulates.
Yeah, well, there's those apps on the Apple phone, wasn't there? That you know,
I'll be honest with you, I got caught out nearly with one of them. And what it was, we was at the Wigan Pier public house, and I'd mentioned to this colleague of acquaintance of both yours and mine about doing some demonstrations there, and he contacted me one day and said somebody's just taken this pic of these 2 girls, and there's a person in the background. And not knowing anything about apps, right, which I didn't, I was a bit gullible, I must admit. He sent it to me, and I sent it to the Wigan Museum, all our yesterdays or whatever it's called, and they said it looked like a pit brow lass, yeah. And he was going on at me, oh, you want to put it in the paper and this, that, and the other, and what have you. And and I thought, well, hang up a minute, you know, calm down. And we were doing our meetings then, and I thought I'd put it to people, see what they think, you know, at the meetings. And I brought it up. We brought it up on the big screen and said, okay, what do you think to this? Somebody went, phone app. I went, what? And they said, phone app, and they showed me, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that killed that conversation then, you know. But if I'd have done exactly what he said, now this guy, he was, he pertained to speak to spirit, if you know what I mean. And he actually said, if this has convinced me that much, because I'm a skeptic as well, that there are actually spirits that live, you know, there are actually ghosts. And I thought, well, if you've just believed it on that, then there's something wrong. You know what I mean? And
well, this is what I was trying to say before, maybe a bit clumsily, but you know, there's certain times when you when you receive testimony from a witness, there's certain things you can't check, but there's always something you can check, and it's just being aware that, you know, check the things you can check, and and that will give you an idea of the credibility, and the also not just the credibility, but the honesty factor of the person concerned. Who's had the experience or allegedly had the experience, and that's what every investigator should do. Should never take anything on face value.
No,
should never be rude or dismissive to somebody who's had an experience either. But you have to be very careful, because there are people out there who would like nothing better than to hoodwink you and to make a fool of you, and so you have to be on your guard, unfortunately. It's a sad world that we have to do that. We just can't take everyone at face value. But
what do you? We're being asked, what do you think of these new phone apps? There's some stuff out there like the Osyth and things like that. What do you think of these new apps?
Well, at first I thought they were really annoying, because as an investigator, you can waste a lot of your time by people, as you say, people sending you 5 different copies of the same thing, and you have to explain to them very carefully that especially if they've been forwarded this picture by a friend of theirs, say actually your friends had you, because they've got this app. But then I started thinking, well, no, bring it on, because as each new generation of these things comes out, we need to be on our toes, and there's nothing better to be on your toes than new techniques coming out to hoodwink you. So I love it. It's a challenge.
But they've got new stuff on there now. They've got like a Ghost Hunter 2 or something. It's like an Osyth, it's like you have these ghost Frank's box type things on there. You've got an app that doesn't do anything, but every now and again it will come up with words, while you're calling out or something, or there's a seismic one that if there's some sort of movement, it will detect it. What do you think to these? Do you think they're just gadgets?
Some of them are, some of them aren't. I think the thing is that you get anything new, you need to test it. So, for instance, if you have these things that are coming up with words as you're calling out, don't call out and see what they come up with.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Is there any correlation between you calling out and you receiving words on that phone? You'll be able to build up a pattern after a while. It probably turned out to be random, possibly, or maybe it isn't. But as I say, that's what you need to do. Just think critically about these things and test them.
We were invited to the Lomax with Jamie. Yeah. And we tried out one of our colleagues' obelisk type thing on his phone, and he's also made like an EM pump thing, and we weren't getting much from it, and the EM pump wasn't near it. The EMF pump wasn't actually near it, but once we turned it on, it was like across the room. We were calling out, and then it said phone, and I said it wasn't answering things straight away. I said, "Do you want us to phone somebody?" And straight away it said yes. We tried it again on an outside vigil last week, and we asked them, asking out questions, and it said Sophie, actress, and it was within 10 seconds, whereas everything else was like you're waiting at least a minute for answers,
The good thing about it, and the good thing about it is it does actually clock it monitors what's been said and what time it was said.
Yeah, and it monitors
so you can go back
to it
later.
Said and what it said, so you can go back and and check what's actually been said. It seems to be working okay, but we still need to play with it a bit more.
Yeah, and you actually got this particular app. It's part of a kit. But he said that it's about the only one that's any good actually in the kit.
Tigger, Andy, he's actually on chat room at the moment. He's just reminded me we were doing a circle at the time, and we had it in the middle, and some people were actually experiencing neck pain on one side of the circle. And it actually said neck, which was very interesting at the time, and we couldn't believe it when it just came out and went neck. People were saying they were getting neck pain, and all of a sudden it said neck. It was like, wow,
that does seem like a fairly good hit, My problem is that when people start to draw, they basically add 1 and 1 together and get 56. Sometimes, for instance, I'm going to give an analogy here, and it's it's not a paranormal analogy, but it'll give you an idea of what can go wrong with making assumptions. Two things necessarily don't have to go together, even though there seems to be a connection. Now, classic case was back in the late 70s, I believe it was, or maybe early 80s. There was a survey done in Blackpool, conducted in Blackpool, but it was major sort of like seaside resorts around the UK.
Yeah.
They wanted to see, they basically, somebody found a correlation by doing a survey that there was a connection between ice cream sales and deaths by drowning at sea. Okay. So in other words, there was a direct link between the number of ice creams sold in a resort and the amount of people who died by drowning at sea. Now, you could get the inference from that if you had an ice cream, like you had a 99, go out for a swim, you're going to die. But that's not the case. No. There was an extra factor, there was a common factor between the two that made all sense, and that was sunlight. Sunny day, ice cream, go out go to cool out in the sea, and you die. So what I'm trying to say is that, but you could, if you didn't investigate further, you would find that, you could easily work out from the data you've picked up that, as I say, that eating ice cream and going for a swim is deadly. And it's not the case. No. But see, so I'm trying to say, sometimes you need to look for a third factor that links the two disparate factors together. Yeah. And sometimes people don't look for those extra factors, and that's when things remain anomalous, when they could easily be solved, I think.
Well, it says that the EMF detectors on the apps don't work. Right. One question. Sorry, carry on.
Well, that's what I was going to say as well. You need to think critically about what the phone is capable of doing.
Yeah.
What facilities has the phone got, and how are these apps tapping into that facility? And so, for instance, when people say, I've turned my phone into an EMF detector, I think, I don't know too much about phones, but to me it sounds a bit crazy.
They give off EMF, don't they? They're electrical, for God's sake. They give that battery and what have you off, don't they?
But I don't think there's any need for a phone to have a function built into it that detects magnetic radiation. It generates it for itself anyway. Yeah. So it defeats its own purpose if that was the case. So that's what I'm trying to say is that now the thing is though that you're saying something about the movement sensors. Well, that's perfectly feasible because phones have things called ideometers built into them. They're basically motion sensors, so that if you flip the screen, the picture will move for you, etc.
Yeah.
And they can be tapped into because the phone has to have a sense of uprightness and direction. And so therefore there's facilities in that phone that detect these things which can be tapped into by an app and used to good effect, for other things, other purposes than what they were designed for. In other words, yeah.
Andy 707 said, "Why would a phone have the capacity to pick up such things?" Well, I think Tigger had it on flight mode when he did it, and but saying that, when you go out and spend God knows how much on ovuluses and stuff like that, how have they got the capacity to pick such things up? You know what I mean? It's.
When we was in Drakelow tunnels, the lady had one. It was £250.
Yeah, and it's the same question, isn't it? Really, just because it's a phone. How come these ovuluses and Frank's boxes can pick things up?
Well, the principle behind the Frank's box is quite interesting. I actually met the guy who actually created the Frank's box, and he explained it to me. He said basically, it's a logical jump he has to make, but he says that ghosts should be able to interact with technology because things like you get EVPs on tape. Certain machinery breaks down. It seems to be, when certain people are in the room, they can exert psychokinesis on these things and make them break down or alter the effects that they should be having on them. Computers become less, random number generators on computers become less random when paranormal effects are happening, etc. And so he said that basically the Frank's box scans all the frequencies of the radio simultaneously, and he says it's basically allowing an agent, an entity, a ghost, whatever you want to call it, to actually pick and choose the words in this random jumble of, randomness that's happening on all these wave bands.
Yeah.
and make sense out of it, and pull out something meaningful to act as a voice for itself. I don't know where I stand on that, but basically that's the principle behind it. Now, the same with, you can have this phone basically generating randomly. It's got a dictionary built into it, so it could be cycling around its dictionary, and the principle is that a ghost, they can then pick a word that fits what it wants to say and pull that out.
We've got something called crosstalk that we use now and again.
Yeah.
It kills the laptop, I must admit, but and it will sit there, go a e a, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And every now and again you might get able and fable, but sometimes you do get certain things out of it, and it's good. We use it for a test. We go through it twice, and on investigations, and ask questions and get people to write down what they think they're hearing, and then we swap them over and do it again to see whether they get the same answers. But we don't use it all the time, but it has sometimes given us exactly the same answers, within the people, within the test, you know what I mean? But like I say, most of these, like going back to the original synopsis, which is true, the best thing to use really is your senses, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Ghost Rider 2873 would like to know, what's your opinion on EVPs, Mark?
EVPs are fascinating to me. I've picked up some myself, some in Chingle Hall even, which again I could discuss to my heart's content, but we haven't got all week. But yeah, EVP is a real phenomenon. I'm convinced of that. Some really strange things going on there, because basically it defies the laws of physics as we understand them. Because you can have a microphone just in the middle of a room, you can be present at the time, you don't hear anything, and then on playback you suddenly hear a human voice. Now, I've done a lot of research into these things, and one thing I can categorically say is that the actual EVP often, not always, but often, the actual acoustic signature of the sound of the voice saying a word is exactly how it should be, as if it was spoken out in the room. So in other words, it obeys the acoustic signature of the room, but you don't hear it at the time. So how the hell does that work? I don't know.
No, it's a bit like really our original one. It goes.
We are getting closer on some interesting things about EVPs now. I've been doing some experimentation with a couple of people, one in Manchester, one in Scotland, on EVPs, and I basically, whenever I do any recording, I use a stereo microphone. Now, the stereo microphone is important because basically it's got it gives you what's called direction information. So in other words, if you put a stereo microphone inside a room, if the object is in the room, if you pick up anything anomalous and it's in the room, then if it's within the bounds of the walls of the room, then it will appear either predominantly on the left or the right hand side of the recording. So in other words, it gives you an idea that it's actually in the room. Now, if it's outside of the room, as in outside on the street, etc., it will appear uniformly on both microphones. So that's a way of determining that you've picked up something anomalous and there's no stray sound coming in from outside, in the outside world. But it also gives you, with a decent pair of headphones and a decent graphic application to have a look at the signatures of the sounds, you can actually work out roughly where that sound's coming from. Now, with equipment more sensitive than I've got, these two chaps have been working with, have determined that the actual EVP occurs at the head of the microphone in the room, or wherever it's being recorded, actually at the head of the microphone. So just right in front of the microphone itself. It doesn't occur miles away. Doesn't occur, a certain way away. So that gives me some idea of why we might not hear it at the time. It's very, very tiny sound being spoken into the head of the microphone.
Yeah. Well, you've probably heard this one before. It was played on Roy Basnett's show when we first came on. I'm going to see whether I can play this for everyone to hear. It was my first ever EVP, and it was taken at the Golden Fleece in York on a dictaphone. Yeah, let's see whether this works. 22nd of September 2006. I'll set you up for what we were doing. We was in the first room, St Catherine's room, and we were sitting there. And at the end of our investigation, or just near the end, if you've seen the Most Haunted version, there's a toilet in the room. Yeah, and Stuart was locked in there, even though there's not a handle in that room or something. Yeah, so we put somebody in there who didn't want to have the door shut. Now, we left the door open, and before we actually started the investigation in the evening, Steve had gone round and made sure that all the taps were tightened. And basically, on the Most Haunted show, the taps had been dripping or running or something. Now, 2 hours or so later, after we started the vigils, the investigation, we was in there, and we did an hour vigil. And just as near the end, we asked if they could do something. We couldn't hear anything or whatever. And then all of a sudden, the young girl that was in the toilet said, "The taps are running." Yeah. Now, dripping. Yeah. And it wasn't until I listened to my dictaphone on the break. Let's hope this will work. This is what we found. Let's see if this will work. Right, okay, it came out the wrong speaker, but never mind. But I'll try that again. See if you hear this. It's that we've brought it up a bit, yeah. So it's the last bit you actually hear. Can you hear? I hope you're hearing that okay in the chat room. I'll just turn it down a touch because it is a bit loud. And can you hear it okay, Mark?
I can hear it fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not hearing it on the chat room because it's not coming out that way.
Right, hold on, let's try this. They're not hearing it in the chat room. Let's just.
Mind you, we are behind you, Sue. So hang on.
Right, hopefully they heard it that time. But yeah, it seemed quite weird because it sounds as though she's saying, "Now I will show you," and it was funny that at the time that the what's name started dripping. Nope, can't hear it, they said.
Hang on a minute, you're about 20 seconds behind.
All right, they said nope. So perhaps I'll hear it in a minute. But so what do you think to that?
Well, it certainly sounds like a human voice.
Sounds like a child.
Does indeed, yeah.
Yes.
Now, this is the one big criticism that skeptics have with EVP. They say that they're very, very indistinct and very subjective, as in it's just like a weird arrangement of noise that some people think is a human voice, and and you can't make them out until somebody tells you what they think it is, and then suddenly that's all you can hear is what what the person's saying. But there are examples out there that are unmistakably human voices that have happened in very anomalous circumstances. They haven't been heard at the time of the recording, yet on playback there they are, clear as day. And it really beggars belief. I mean, there's really something here for science, and I'm astounded that science doesn't take it up. I really am. No,
so as I say, I've been back to the Golden Fleece every year after then. I couldn't replicate it,
Well, and again, you've done something very sensible there. You've tried to replicate the thing, which is what any investigator should do. We nearly got we nearly fooled ourselves once on an investigation in a pub in Liverpool called the Rubber Duck, and I'll never forget this. We all went off for a tea break, and we left a little tiny recorder running at the time, and we came back, played back the recording, and we heard this unearthly noise. It was like a sort of like disincarnated scream. It was really blood curdling. It's like your hairs went up on the back of your neck and everything else. It really, really was horrific sounding. And we were thinking, right, what could have caused this noise? So we went round the room and we tried everything that made a squeak or a groan noise. The doors. We tried everything, absolutely everything there. Tried to scrape chairs across the floor, and nothing recreated it at all. And then we went back for a second investigation a number of weeks later, and again during the tea break, the sound occurred again, but this time we heard it. And what it was basically the water shooting up the cold riser in the plumbing that created this unearthly scream. But it was case closed. But as I say, if we hadn't gone back there, we would have still ended up with an anomaly. So we're pleased we did. Yeah.
Right. Well, somebody's asked me if I can play you one that John did in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I'm just going to see whether I can find it. Okay. It played and I didn't expect it. Let's see whether you can hear this. I'll try again. You can hear him say thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That was very clear. Yeah.
And there's like a disembodied voice at the back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can hear that in the background.
I can, yes, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to play it in the mic for everyone to hear. So they can hear it.
Thank you.
Play it one more time.
Thank you.
I don't think they're hearing it very well, but so what do you think to that, Mark? It's like it's really in the background.
So if you pick it up on that one,
it's very interesting. I mean, I would like to, I would like to listen to it properly, as in not through Skype connections, etc., because we lose data through Skype, obviously. But yeah, it is interesting, very, very interesting. And as I say, you're talking to the converted here. I mean, EVP to me is a big mystery, really is.
Yeah.
And one that I really want to get to grips with. And I've got some ideas for equipment I'd like to build, but I haven't got the means to do it yet. But pass these ideas on to other people, and they are, as we speak, sort of like trying to construct stuff for me to actually do some tests with. And once they're done, I'd like to hand these out to some groups, to yourselves included, obviously. In fact, you're the first people on my list to try it out in the field.
Right.
And,
okay.
But my quest is to get a very, very clear EVP, as in without all this background mush that appears to be needed to actually produce a sound. But I want to get crystal clear EVPs that there's absolutely no question that they are human voices and they're saying intelligible words. So that's my big quest, and I won't rest until I've done it.
No. So you've got 4 books coming out, yeah?
Well, I'm writing 4 books. When they come out, I don't know. It's just I've got a bit of a butterfly mind at the time. At this moment in time, I'm working on one, and suddenly something else fascinates me, and I start doing research, and I think, oh, there's a book in there, so off I go. And now, out of those 4 books, one of them is not paranormal, so that's low on the priority. The other 3 are. They're very, very paranormal. One is going to be about EVP.
Right. Okay. So, and will we see you in the hub again, maybe in the new year?
Absolutely. If you want me back on, I'm more than happy to.
You know we do. We love having you on.
Yeah, maybe you can come down with Roy.
So,
that'd be quite good, actually. Yeah. In fact, we'll probably try and discuss that next week when we're all together.
Yeah, in the new house. Once we got the new office sorted out and everything.
Oh yeah, we'll have to christen your house for you.
Definitely. So, but yeah, that'd be great. So I'm hoping to be moving in the next week or 2, and just waiting for the date now. So I'm just finishing off the packing. I'm going to leave computers and everything as the last minute, and but yeah, it'll be good. It'll be great to see you again, and give my love to Michelle.
I certainly will. Yeah, I'm sure she must be listening in the other room.
Yeah. So and hope to see you soon. Well, I will see you soon. Will Michelle be there on Saturday?
She will be. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. It'd be good to see you again.
So first time since the wedding, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is definitely. So I'll have to check with Jamie what time I need to be there. So I'll see you then.
Okay.
Well, thanks again, Mark, and take care. And thanks.
Thank you. And can I just say thanks to everybody for listening as well, and some really fascinating questions there. Thanks very much.
No problem, and thank you for your ever continuing support for us as well.
It's a given, because you're doing such fantastic work, and I'll support you to the death. I really will.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye, Mark.
Right, well, that was Mark Rosney. He's a good friend of ours, always has been, always will be, and it's been great having him on the show. I'm going to see if I can play this for you, see if it will come out properly on here. See what this does. I'm trying. I am trying. So, my laptop, I think, needs redoing sometime. So, see what happens. Steve said it should play all right properly on here. Come out a bit better. Let's see if I can change the outlay.
It came through, but it's still a bit low.
Still a bit low. Okay, let's try something else. Play that again. No, I think that's not coming out the speaker. Let me just check this. Playback to it was faint. Yes, I know. I'm just trying to sort something out here. Give me a sec. Playback devices. See if I can get it through the amp. Bear with me. Speakers. Output. HDMI output. That isn't it, is it, Steve?
No.
Hold on, let's try this one. See what this says.
Thank you.
Did that work? Let's try that one more time.
Thank you.
Did you hear that better that time?
It did come through, but it's hard to make out what it is.
Bit tinny. Oh, sorry. Sorry. That's what you get when you put it on here. So let me just do this other one for you so you can hear what I was playing. You're better off trying to play them through Audio City so you can adjust the gain. I haven't got Audio City on my thingy, I'm afraid. Perhaps we can put the link on the KTPF page and then you can hear it better on there. I think that might be better. Do you mind if I share it, John? I'm sure you won't, will you? So let me just put
I mean, he has to put it on Facebook himself, so you can pick it up from there.
Let me just find the... No, not on a friends, on a groups. Thank you. There you go. Let's see whether that'll work. And the one I wanted to play from our site, just one of them that we picked up. As I say, it's the one that I actually like, to be honest with you. It's probably going to be a bit loud, but we'll see. When it comes up. My laptop's really being a pain at the moment.
Yeah, it needs a good overhaul, doesn't it?
It does need a good overhaul. I'll wait for that a minute. While we're waiting for that, I'll just tell you what's coming up next week. As you know, we've got the cage. We need you there for the cage. And we need you to listen in. And the following week, we are meant to have Richard Freeman talking about his investigation coming up for the Tasmanian wolf. Bit of cryptozoology there, so we haven't had it for a while. Then the week after, one of these will be cancelled and rescheduled. We have Stephanie Bodding talking about her book House on Pulteney Road, all about her experiences. Right, let's see if I can play this for you now while I'm seeing some here. Hopefully you can hear that. We enhanced it so we could get it.
We took all the background noise out.
Yeah.
It was there, yeah.
On the 8th of December, should have been sorted by then, Neil Arnold is going to be on the show talking about his Bluebell Hill experiences, plus also big black cats and stuff like that. God, made me jump, sorry. And then we've got Jackie Newcomb back on the 15th of December. Barbara Mickle-John-Free on the 22nd. And then on the 29th, we've got Karen Vance Hammond. I think that's her name. Let me just double check. Karen Hammond, Vance Hammond, and her colleague. They're going to be talking about the secrets of something or other. I can't read my writing now. 2 secs. It's on the What's Name page anyway. Where is it? The secrets, she says. Secrets in the Shadows. Karen Vance Hammond and Kimberly Brawlett, if that's right, how to pronounce it. So we're going to be talking about that on the show. Another good book that's coming in that you can read. Dense fog blanketed the canopy of autumn trees, arrayed in a myriad of yellow, oranges, and reds. In the distance, ghostly walls from a foghorn resounded throughout the valley. Its melancholy sound sliced through the silent evening air as it vibrations caught up the lighthouse spiral staircase. Sounds a bit like the fog, doesn't it? So that will be it. That will take us to the end of the year. So until next time, see you next week. Good night, Andy. Good night, John, Tigger, Mark Rosney. Thank you very much for being on the show. Paul J, hiding there in the background. Doc Savage, thank you for joining us again. Glad when you come home and we can meet you properly. Love to Anita. And all those that were in the chat room tonight, thank you for your questions and for listening in. And until next time, don't forget.
Coming soon.
I've told you what's coming soon.
This is where it's at.
So we'll see you next time. Good night and God bless. And don't forget,
keep the paranormal friendly, guys. Good night.
To see in the night, to measure the spike, to see how cold it's been. I buy my kit so I won't forget the ghosties that I have seen. The Paranormal Intelligence Gathering Services Ghost Store. So visit www.the-pigs.co.uk/ghost store.
I received a message on my mobile during the show and thought I'd add it to the end of this recording of the 10th of November. And it's in regards to the conversation that we had with our guest this evening, Mark Rosney. I hope you enjoyed the show and we'll see you all soon.
Hello, this is Stephen Griffiths from, I believe it was people known as Living with the Dead team or Swan & Co Paranormal. We're doing the show with John on the 17th, which we look forward to anyway, in the cage. I just wanted to say that Chingle's got a good point of view regarding the investigations these days. It's more turning into Scooby-Doo shows, and then people running around in the dark and screaming still. And, people have got to think sort of outside the box, really, regarding investigating and looking for new ideas to try to communicate or trying to find evidence regarding paranormal or spirits or UFOs or any subject you're into, really. And it's a very good point and quite interesting. Anyway, I will speak to you soon, and hopefully I'll talk to somebody regarding the and catch up with you regarding the show on the 17th down at the Cage with John. It's Stephen Griffiths from Swan & Co Paranormal or Living with the Dead. Okay, thanks so much. Bye-bye.